Be with us to strengthen us and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the Africans who opened up Africa, opened up the Nile Valley to other cultures and other peoples, and they came in and nurtured themselves on the African greatness. First coming in early with the ancient Hebrews, and they synthesized this culture and produced Judaism. Later coming in were the Christians, and they synthesized this culture and produced Christianity. Coming in were also the Greeks, who took the African culture, synthesized it, and produced Greek civilization. And then later, the Prophet Muhammad, and with the Arabs coming into the Nile Valley, they synthesized the culture and produced Islam. We ask these African ancestors, who as part of their legacy laid the foundations for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Greek civilization, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask those African ancestors pulled out of Africa, taken to the hells of North America, South America, the Caribbean, maintaining the spirit of African humanity in their hearts and in their minds, and who left us this enormous legacy of struggle. We ask those Africans who resisted enslavement in the villages of Africa, who resisted enslavement in the shores of Africa, who resisted enslavement in those forts and dungeons, who resisted enslavement in the holds of those ships, who resisted enslavement when they arrived on these shores in the New World. We ask these Africans who ran into the highlands of northeast Brazil and established for 100 years the first free republic in the Americas, the Republic of Palmares, and their last great leader, Zumbi, whose spirit and sacrifice. We ask these Africans who replicated the Brazilian experience and went into the highlands of Jamaica and became the maroon-free communities. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of the Guyanas and Suriname and created free republic of the Suramaka and the Ajuka. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of Georgia and the swamps of Florida and moved with the Seminole Indians and resisted oppression. We ask these Africans who left us a legacy of struggle and resistance, the likes of which no one in the world has, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these Africans who created and laid for us a foundation of struggle and resistance that was passed on generation after generation, that was passed on to Harriet Tubman, who fought her way out of enslavement and became a symbol of freedom for all of us. Similarly, Frederick Douglass and hundreds of thousands of others fought their way out of enslavement. We ask those Africans who went with Bookman,
Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Larry Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow to all of you. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, great Gurus, receive our love, receive our desire to love you more, to attune our hearts and minds with your great presence. Om. Peace.
Speak truth to the people. To identify the enemy is to free the mind. Free the mind of the people. Speak to the mind of the people. Speak truth. Hide nothing from the masses of the people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victory. When we lose our African connection, we lose our world connection. When we disconnect ourselves from Africa, we cease to be a world people. Without the African connection, we are a disjointed people, begging for the entry into somebody else's house.
Or that, if you felt that, if you experienced that. It's a prelude to this year's first full moon, the Wolf Moon. According to NASA, we're told that this full moon will appear for 3 days starting this evening, maxing out tomorrow evening into Wednesday morning. It's after 6 o'clock. It did feel good and look good this morning and last night. And, all the time. Dr. John Henry Clarke is in our minds, one of my earliest mentors when I started this program, one of the earliest real Pan-Africanists that I met in terms of this program, Dr. John Henry Clarke, and he became a mentor. I remember literally sitting at his feet with Dr. Ben and Obati Shaka, and I mean, that was just a beautiful time. So many were in that room. 6:20. I'm expecting a special guest in the studio. He's not here yet. I'm not seeing him. So in a little while, though, we hope to go to the phone lines to speak with Dr. Devon Taylor. And I'm expecting in the studio Byron Brown and is this DJ Chuckleberry? That you have seen this viral video going around, and our brother confronting, or not even just confronting, but just running into a security guard who was protecting on his job, his paid job, I'm sure, protecting the ocean from fellow Jamaicans. And I don't want to cast any aspiration on the security guard, because so many of our people find ourselves working in these spaces and do our job or lose our job, and a decision has to be made at some point. So we want to talk with the brother Byron Brown, who was on the beach. He's been in the studio before. He's been on this program before. And we're also going to go to the telephone lines after the break to speak with Dr. Devon Taylor of JABEM to talk about what are the laws that are currently on the book? Because we're talking about sovereignty, aren't we? And we're talking about emancipation and independence. And let's forget emancipation. Let's say independence. But how independent are we if we are still slaves to laws that have been on the book from the days of slavery? So those laws that have been on the books from the days of slavery are laws that are meant to keep us enslaved. But those laws are still on the book, and the government of Jamaica, on both sides, continue to enforce those laws. What does that say about those who are enforcing the laws? It says, then, those who enforce the laws of slavery must be enslavers. And it is as simple as that. For me, I have no problem. It is as simple as that. And if we continue to be silent, we have maintained in Jamaica a silence closely resembling stupidity when it comes to the slavery laws that are still on the books and those who are enforcing those laws. I'll take a break, and when we come back, we speak with Devon Taylor, beach access activism on the island. And against all odds, we're hoping that this will catch on. But as I said before, generally, we have maintained a silence closely resembling stupidity. And I'm not saying people are stupid, and it's not my quote. I'm just using one of those ancient quotes. I can't even remember who said it. But this is basically where we find ourselves, maintaining this silence. But our brother, Byron Brown, why am I saying Byron Brown? This is what you want to be called?
No, Chuckleberry or Kushkash or living natural, something more like...
Right, Chuckleberry.
Like slave, yeah.
Exactly, because it's Chuckleberry we know.
Chuckleberry we know. I don't
yeah.
know about Byron.
Who Byron?
We don't know about Byron, so Europeans. Slave name.
You know, we are talking about... Dr. Devon Taylor is on the line. Dr. Devon Taylor, we hear you. Who buy one?
You have to use the revolutionary name, you know?
Yeah, man.
Chuckleberry, man. A long time we know Chuckleberry.
Yes,
I could fix the thing properly.
Yeah.
All right. So there is. Let me just contextualize this because beach activism and the push for to save the coastline of Jamaica and to rescue ourselves from being entrapped in this landlocked situation that the government of Jamaica, it don't matter who is in power, have been forcing us into. We're losing the war. I don't even know if we might be. It seems as if we're winning battles, but we win the battle for a minute, and then we have to go back and fight the same battle again. So we're losing the fight, we're losing the war, we're losing the battle. It is what it is. But a luta continua, avitura is certa. Victory is certain. Jabem is doing a critical work in the process in terms of taking this matter through the legal system. Now, you would have seen the viral video of our brother on the beach who attempted to access the ocean, the water, the ocean, but was denied or was prevented from doing so. And, I saw that and I looked at it and I didn't even know it was you, Chuckleberry in the background there. Yeah. I kept listening to it and I said to myself, but this is what we should be doing. This is what we are to do. Just the way you handled yourself, just the way you spoke to the security guard. Now, most of Jamaica would have seen this. So before I go to Dr. Taylor, tell us what happened before. And we've seen the video. A lot of us have seen the video, but, so give us the lead up to what led to that interaction between yourself and the security guard, and then also what happened afterwards.
My wife was up on the beach and say,
all right, pull the phone closer to your DJ, Chuckleberry.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yes.
So my wife just up on the beach and I chill and like a regular day with us, so we go chill. Cause I kind of understand what the sun is and what nature is to me because I'm connected to nature. So most of us go up on the beach and go with our local vibes, like we go swim, cause we went into the public beach in Awochi. Pay $200 going and lie down on the beach. So she said to me, let's go for a walk. You know what I mean? We go for a local nature walk. So I walk along the beach. Me tell her, I say, I need to have my phone still, cause I don't just leaving my phone on the beach. So I never intentionally carry it for video him, cause we never know what the future will bring. Yeah. So we just walk down on the beach, like a normal day. Them say this bridge run out. Like general, them little dog they will run out in a yard from people. What you call them again?
We're not going to style nobody, stop it.
Sorry, no, I never said. Alright, yeah, so...
But I understand that this person just ran up onto you.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Virgin, like, what go on? The man has to go on bad and I tell me a bag of things. You can't walk on the beach and so I say, bro, but I'm up on your property, bro. I'm just walking in the water. Man, I said, I can't do it. As I said the video. So the rest of the people in front of the beach, I said, no, you can't tell the man that. Don't stop Chuckleberry, go on where you go. I said, no, but I really want to have a talk with him still. Like, me, you should have a conversation. If you watch the video, you say...
I heard that. I heard how respectful you were. I heard that you wanted to say something to him, to make a point, so that he would understand. So what happened?
Him just started telling me, say, yo, you can't go up on this, you can't. I said, no, bro, because based off of me grew up on the beach and them thing, that me as a Jamaican, I say, me in a Jamaica, I travel the world and them a fight me out, I'm a come to my yard and I get fight, seeing way, like, it's still a way. So I try for reason, because I try to educate him, because I kind of say him ignorant to what really I go on. As a man that look like me never try to get aggressive with him as I watch the video. Yes. Like patiently I say, Bridget, me try to read the video. Come yes. Find out say him do not know these things. Yes.
And we want to make something very clear. This is not about the security guard, because the security guard, as you said to him, was doing his job.
Yeah.
A job that he was told to do, but you wanted to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, because it's more than one time the yes. security approach me. I mean, to find out, say, them just get a job, but within the job, them don't know the regulation. Yes. They don't know what to do. Them just put them on the job and say, yo, if you see nobody a pass, stop them.
Yes.
So.
And if they don't, they lose their jobs. This is basically what it is,
Yeah.
If they don't do what they're told regarding preventing Jamaicans from walking in the water, on these so-called private property, these resorts, then they lose their jobs. This is basically what it is. So what did you manage to have a conversation with him at all
is when him realize who me is and other people start bash him. Then I kind of see him get calmed down because the next brethren I work with him come down and start telling him, say, no, bro, the people them are walking in the water. You're not supposed to stop people from walking in the water. Then the brethren start to educate him. That's when him calm down. When him find out that everybody now start come at him and start bash him. And
so
he realize who me is.
So you're walking in the water?
In the water.
So you obviously, because I know you're a beach activist, you're an activist for access to the beach. I know that.
My born on the beach.
Yes.
My born come see all of my people, my beach people.
So you are conscious of the fact and privy to the laws.
Yes.
That you have a right to walk in the water.
To walk in the water or up to where the water.
The so-called foreshore?
Yeah, So me just do that nice and I got you and this brethren just come disturb my peace. I'm still calm and I try to deal him because I just find out say, him are just the messenger or him are just a man where them put on the front for just do them something, but in ignorant to the whole knowledge of the beach.
So anything else happened after that?
We just walk, after the video, we just walk on the beach here, and even the tourists I try to interact with we, obviously I find out, because I've been going to beach all the time, even when them black way, I'm still, but the people them that come here, they want to interact with the indigenous people.
Yes.
And this is what they are blocked from.
Right.
They want to talk to we. Come travel early and see me. They want to know what go on.
Yes,
Can then lock them in a one cage and I tell them, say, Jamaica is high violent and a lot of violence in Jamaica. So they should not interact with the natives. So that's what the people want to do. So if it wasn't Chuckleberry, it would have been a whole different situation. It would have been a whole situation because a lot of people are coming and when him realize who he is, because even, I think I'm supervisor, I don't know the guy, but him know me. Start telling him who me is. So it's still a matter of, who know who. Dr. Taylor, because you've been looking at this, I know JABEM, representing JABEM, founder and director of JABEM, the activism turn up, literally there's a serious activism on the ground here in Jamaica. And we have been at pains over time to say to Jamaicans that we have a right, at least according to the laws, to access certain places. Tell us about this law that our brother Chuckleberry used, and what is the more comprehensive picture in terms of what the law says about our ability to access or right to access the beach.
Greetings everyone. So, Kabu, to really unpack that, we have to go to the Beach Control Act of 1956, a legislation that came into being when Jamaica was a colony of England, all right? And really what Section 3 of the Beach Control Act of 1956 basically says that all rights in and over the foreshore of the island and the floor of the sea are hereby declared to be vested in the Crown. All right? So the Crown, the foreshore is that wet sand area. It's only around 6 to 7 feet wide. And that part is actually owned by the Crown. Now, the Crown of Jamaica is, basically the Commissioner of Land, right? Even though we're still a colony of Britain, so it's still Crown land because King Charles III is still the head of Jamaica. And I think that's something that Jamaicans must be clear about, that the head Jamaica of a king and the name of Charles III. And this part of the beach is actually owned by the Crown. So even, through legalities, it says that it is managed by the Commissioner of Land, right? That is the area that is in the Crown, so it basically should be public, right? It really should be public. Floor of the sea, which is all the water, go back out to Jamaica part of the continental shelf, and, up to 6 to 7 feet, should really be public land. However, there is this preservation of colonial land monopoly, all right, that really allows the government only to allow us in this space by permission. And we have to be clear about this, right, because the law does not give us any general right to say that we can go there anytime we want. All right, because what it says in Section 4 is that no person shall be deemed to have any right in or over the foreshore of this island. And I will repeat that. It says no person shall be deemed to have any rights in or over the foreshore of the island.
So what we have here is a law that is coming from the days of slavery. A law that is now being enforced by the independent government of Jamaica without change. So, in other words, as I said earlier, this makes them enslavers, and that is the bottom line without question. It's a law that's on the book. We say colonial, we use the word colonial, but regardless of emancipation, abolition, or what you name, that whole process is what led to this law, that process of slavery. So then, I know that one of the questions that you've posed, and we see that also on the flyer that's out, who owns the beach? Who owned the beach? Who owned the beaches in Jamaica? Is it the government of Jamaica, the monarchy of England, King Charles, William, George, Camilla, Kate, and them? Are they the ones who own the beach ultimately? Or do the people of Jamaica own these beaches?
Now, when I want to go one step further, because this has been clearly written in, this beach access management policy that the government said that they're trying to, amend and change in the benefit of the Jamaican people. And it's explicitly clear that what they wrote, that in Jamaica, we have no general right to swim, no general right to bathe, no general right to walk along the foreshore, and no general right to fish, right? And all of these, are interpretation of the Beach Control Act of 1956. So if the beach on the floor of the sea on the foreshore is vested in the crown land, and they're saying now the crown land is managed, by the Commissioner of Lands. And the Commissioner of Lands is appointed by the Governor General of Jamaica. And the Governor General of Jamaica is representative of King Charles III. Right? That means the Crown owns the beaches.
No, make us stop saying the Crown. That means Charles III and William and George, the little boy, they are the ones who actually own the beaches in Jamaica. Because when you say the Crown, it is so, it's almost inanimate. So we want make it humanize it. The crown, the people are the crown, and these people, the monarch, the head of that crown is Charles, who cheated on his wife Diana and married to the mistress Camilla, and so now Camilla is queen and Charles is king, and the boy William is his son, and William is a heir to the throne. And George is a son of William, and so George is now the heir to the throne. They are the owners of the beach in Jamaica. This is what I hear you saying.
That is what I am saying.
That is a crown.
That's exactly what I'm saying, and because is appointee in Jamaica or run film business in Jamaica the Governor General. And the Governor General appoints the Commissioner of Lands. All right, arrangement. Give them all the control over the space. So there are many land in Jamaica where the Crown and the King of England own. All right? And we can go upon them and then dispose of them all the while.
We do not have access to them. Chuckleberry, what has been your experience generally? Because here you were. You didn't expect that what happened to you, and you have been an activist for a long while, would have happened and being enforced by one of our own. What is your experience generally?
But kind of traumatized. Like, me fully traumatized. Cause down at the beach, down at Mambia Beach, I grew up on, You know, them come, them take the beach, and we have to walk through. Me have to walk through gully. I have to take the gully side, go down bush, my foot cut up on them something, just for God see, just figure all the vibes. They go dive, look at sea mass and them something. Me in a see, police ask me, where am I? Yeah. Me in a see a swim. And police come up on me and say, what are you doing at the water? And told me, shot me have to ask him, say, what you are doing at the water?
Goodness
it's the same thing me I do.
me.
The police, I say, what me are doing at the water?
Was
like,
he armed?
Fully armed. More than one of them, two of them, some sea police, them said them names. Ask me, what me are doing at the water? Like, you tell me now. Alright, me swim, them I go over Rio. Cause you see myself over this far in the far end. See a security bridge and call me. I say, what is bridge really a deal? I check say somebody know me, cause I mean name Chocoberry. So me go to the bridge and ask me what me I do. I say, bro, God, what you really ask me, say? What me I do? You know the sea, like you have the maternity there. If you call me out, look at all these white people who come from Germany, Italy. You ever call them, ask them what am I doing in the water? Like seriously, why me?
This is how insidious, egregious, and vulgar this whole business is in Jamaica.
Insidious is an understatement.
It's an understatement.
It's sick. Like, I'm fully traumatized. Like, just imagine me grow up on a place, and then you and me, we come from Yasso. Some people come from Europe, America, all these places where me go, who fight me, seeing when I come to my country and the people will look like me, fight me, seeing what you expect me to do?
The question is, what are we to do? And this is the point where we are now. I don't know. The frustration is high. I saw what happened to you. That video is viral. It's gone all over the world. A lot of people are seeing it. People are asking questions. Even Jamaicans overseas and Jamaicans on the island apparently didn't even recognize how serious this matter was until this video. We're seeing the comments and we're hearing the questions. So, Jabem, there has been a fight for access to the beaches for a very long time. Jabem, Devon, Dr. Taylor, you has looked at this and determined that there has to be another element to the fight. And so Jabem said, only way to do this, there's other elements.
The island that we need to fight for. So the legal strategy is one, but we need on board to push this advocacy, right? And that's the only way that we're going to convince the government, because I want to let the Jamaican people understand the behavior of these hotels is because of the Beach Control Act that we want to be repealed and replaced. Because the Beach Control Act gives the government the right to lease these beaches to the hotels for their operation. And there are more than 275 beaches that are associated with hotels and villas and guest houses. 275 of these. And the numbers I know have increased because this is kind of old data. And in fact, I want to let the public know that this particular establishment that discriminated against Chuckleberry have a beach license that they applied for in 2014, and they only paid $676 for that license. Okay? And this must ring true to the people. They must understand this. Them only spend $676 because I have the license. I'm examining the license. That's what MPSA really operate on.
$676 to keep Jamaicans off the beach and out of the water.
Kabu, that's the application fee, and every year they have to pay a license fee. And if the document that we receive from 2020 is correct, their annual renewal fee is 150,000 Jamaican dollars, which is basically in today's money like $961.54. Then pay every year to lock Jamaicans off of them beach. We can't go up on them beach to that the amount of money. That's people must be 1 or 2 nights stay in the hotel and then cover for the rest of the year. And we, the descendants of enslaved Africans who for ancestors fought for the land, we are excluded. So the government is selling off the treasures of the land, is giving away
Giving away.
For free,
but for what? But for what? And this is, everything is going to come out in the wash. This is a professional, these politicians as, from the book, if you read the book, Behold a Pale Horse. I don't know if you've read that book, Behold a Pale Horse. It speaks of politicians as professional hitmen. And this is basically what we have here in Jamaica. These people who disguise themselves as politicians are really professional hitmen and economic hitmen and otherwise. So here we have a situation where we have no access and we keep every time. We've been talking about this for years now. And one of the reasons why I say that we're losing the battle is that we're losing more beaches. Chuckleberry, you would have, I'm sure you've experienced this, you're seeing this, you're witnessing.
Gun John and me, like the other day when I'm locked down the beach, I think Liquidon River, my wife and I went so far and swim around because we are swimmers. Because we say, all right, through them so we can access them land. We not trouble them land. We go way out to one place out. So
God come through the water.
Yeah, and swim around and come around. When me go around the security, I tell Mr. Virgin, where are you doing the water? And me I say, bro God, me not depend on your land, bro, me there the water. The man I say, all right then, cool. But do not go up there, the riverside.
Do not cross the imaginary line. This is my experience too. Where you go to the beach and you're coming in from the water and there is an imaginary line guarded by a security guard who is armed, who is telling you, do not cross this line that only him can see.
He might tell me, so me can't go over the riverside over there, so I say, bro, so who is you if you tell me that? You want land, I mean, at the water, and I tell me, so me can't go over there, so. Then one of the bridge now come. When we do the water, I gun the manager, the bridge have to tell him, say, no man, I'm good. I said, no man, like Tabu, if you're man like me, we travel the world and see what going out of the world. And then me come in my space and them thing in my face.
Yes. And we have maintained a silence closely resembling stupidity. The media in Jamaica has sided, generally outside of IRA FM, sided for the most part with the private sector in this, with the government in this, with the slavery laws in this. But we shall look back on this time as a media, mainstream media, and recall that we were complicit in the sale of Jamaica, because Jamaica, as Butcher Banton tells us, sell out.
Big time.
Sell out.
Me see it. Sell out. Cause I can go up on other shows and I'm up on my shows and
yes.
When I'm out there, I feel like a little dog in the water. I'm coming to my place and it works with my people and they look like me.
Yes.
So what really are going?
What is really happening? Dr. Taylor, just before you go, I know we have to go to the next interview, but just quickly, put something in context and in perspective for us, because I know you have the figures in terms of the total coastline, how much of it has gone and how much is available to the people of Jamaica in terms of access to the beaches.
The 2001 data basically says 494 miles. We only have 2.8 miles of access. So we have less than 1% of access to the Jamaican coastline. I want Jamaicans to understand the fight is not just for a conservation easement, all right, which is a land rights fight. Okay, so without land rights, there's no beach access. That is fundamentally true. But this experience of Chuckleberry shows also that despite getting on the space, you don't have the right, to the space. You don't have the right to walk, to be able to swim. All right, so the context that Jamaica must understand, the fight is for land rights and it is for accessing and using the space. And the Beach Control Act blocks out us from all of that. And the complicity of the government by not creating any land that the Jamaican people can use to access and use the beach around the island further isolate and discriminate against us. So we need a land to really operate off of, and we need the rights to the beach and rights to the sea. So what that really translates into, a set of laws needs to be passed. We repeal and replace the Beach Control Act of 1956, but the government have to set up land trust. And the government now is going to have to make the entire coastline around Jamaica public land. that should include at least 60 to 150 feet above the high water mark, above the wet sandy area, must be in a trust that is owned by the people of Jamaica. Otherwise, anything short of that means that we are not really changing anything, right? We are keeping systems of oppressions in place as it relates to our rights to use the beach, to access the sea, and to enjoy the treasures of the land. And that is what the Jamaican people need. So join up with Jabem to help push for a fundamental change. The fundamental change is really to convert the whole space into public land that includes sea, includes foreshore, backshore, and includes of that land off of which we can operate. And that must change. This colonial law must go, and the mentality and the policy that the government have in place must go as well. And it's only we, the people, can do so, because we see what's happening in the country. The entire North Coast is gone, and they're going for the South Coast, and we can't allow that to happen. So
and it is what it is. It's the isness of things. We are on our own, reshaping the future of the Caribbean for our children, reshaping the future of Jamaica for our children. We have the power to do that. Dr. Taylor, Chuckleberry, make you one quick last word, Chuckleberry.
Well, I don't even know if you say, like, it's too much right now, because if you're a man like me, you go to California and go up on the beach free, let me that. Florida up on the beach free, me go Canada up on the beach free, me go to Blackpool in England and be free, I'm coming to my country, and I can't really walk on even the beach freely. Like Jamaican, we need to stand for something still, because we feel like we have fall. I don't even know the ignorance level of Jamaica women is still like divided by PNP and Labour, right? And that's one of the biggest problems. Because based off all the comments that I get, and when we start to check the people, it's like the division right now, but we are divided and rule.
This is our problem.
Yeah.
This is our problem.
That's the biggest problem that we have.
Yes,
these people who are here to represent us, them not represent real, I represent the brethren that brethren they are England.
Yes.
So it's that Jamaica, all me have to say, wake up. Shake up.
Thank you so much for coming in, my brother. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for having that presence of mind to take out the camera and record that, because as Devon Taylor says, this is what is helping now to push the advocacy.
Yeah, because the phone is more powerful than the gun.
Yes.
Exactly. And it's not me I deal with right now. It's just the future.
And a roundup as we go into, and this is not the chemical now, we're just looking back to go forward, looking at Africa and the African independence movement. We know we're on our own. So here we are in 2025. They're talking about 5 years to Vision 2030, the agenda, the project. They have fast-tracked the project. Of course, it's affecting us, and of course, it's going to affect us. But let us look at Africa over last year and look forward. We're going to be looking specifically this morning at the so-called, and I'm doing this only once, I hope I don't have to use that word again, but the so-called Francophone Africa. And then if we have time to quickly talk about what's happening in Ethiopia, Somalia, Eritrea, Somaliland, or so. If we don't have time, then we'll invite Kwame Pianke to come back. Kwame Pianke is an engineer and a tutor, and he, you know him well, a Pan-African scholar and geopolitical analyst. He's on this program very often. Kwame, my brother, thank you so much for joining us inside of the Africa Forum this morning, as usual.
Good morning, Kabu. How are you this morning?
I'm well, if you two are well.
I am well.
Yes. Kwame, so I want to go in at a very interesting place. You've been sending me information on this, and I've been watching this closely also myself. So we're going to start somewhere interesting and then to come forward. So can we start with the most recent thing, which is now we have Emmanuel Macron, and that's where we're starting, of France, seemingly threatening the Prime Minister of Senegal, Ousmane Sonko, and indeed Senegal itself. He was speaking, and thank you for sending me this, he was speaking to the foreign ambassadors at a conference a few days ago, and he proceeded to talk about how African leaders are ungrateful because they did not thank him for fighting terrorism in the Sahel. He talked about how many countries in Africa would not be sovereign nations today if France had not intervened. And he said French troops are not being driven out of Africa, but they were negotiations between France and these countries. And he allowed these countries to come forward to say, this was, the decision was made. Now, let us talk about that coming from Macron. And if you will, the response of your response to this, first of all, and then the response of Africa, those who have responded.
Well, obviously, Macron's screed, if you want to call it that, or shrieks, if you want to call it that, are just the veil or being ripped off of what European colonialism has been since, quote-unquote, African independence of the 1960s. So they've been... This is basically, you could take Macron's speech and call him Napoleon or call him whatever the European leaders were in the 1800s and the 1700s, things of that nature. It's very clear that they see, their African quote-unquote partners as colonial possessions. But to point out for Macron, ever since the war on terror started, especially with the U.S. military, terrorism in Africa has increased 100,000%. So France has not helped Africa at all. And let's not forget in northern Mali, the French troops had, with all their military superiority, had no way of recapturing Kidal, and they would not allow the Malian troops to cooperate with them in recapturing Kidal. And once France was kicked out, the Malian troops recaptured Kidal. And so basically the sovereignty of France was still there in the Sahel states, the AES. Their sovereignty would be even further reduced. Now, that being said, France had a plan from 2023, and in the report as of June 24, to reduce their military presence in Africa. They said they wanted to reduce their troops in Gabon from 350 to 100, and Senegal from 350 to 100, and Cote d'Ivoire from 600 to 100, and from 1,000 to 300. However, so based on the response I've seen so far, we see that Cote d'Ivoire and Gabon obviously acquiesce with France's role, because France wants to create something similar to AFRICOM now, where you kind of have a command somewhere else, but you can have your troops at the ready to intervene at any time. And the head of their new AFRICOM type organization, his name is Pascal Iani, is specialized in information warfare. And so the interesting thing about Senegal and Chad is that there is some confusion as to whether or not they agreed with this reduced presence. They said they made their decisions on their own. It seems like the meeting between Chad's president and one of the French ambassadors was very tense. And so maybe Senegal and Chad kicked out the French troops on a timeline that did not suit France. And that's what I would like. That's what I lean to. So maybe there was an agreement in place, but they jumped ahead of the line.
Ousmane Sonko told Macron that France does not have the ability or the legitimacy to defend Africa, and that there was no agreement between France and Senegal. And he goes on to remind France that wherever France goes in Africa, there is catastrophe and there's a disaster. And he cited Libya. But one of the things I liked about what he said was that he reminded him of the African armies, the intervention of African soldiers in World Wars I and II. And he said, this is what I think is making Macron so angry, is because the Senegalese president told him that were it not for African soldiers and African armies who fought in World Wars I and II on behalf of France, that today France would be German.
Oh, yes, definitely. African soldiers and African armies, and African soldiers from the United States as well, and African soldiers from the Caribbean, right? Because, the French people stood down when the Nazis came on through. So that's a very good point. And if you remember the Libya disaster, the U.S. initiated the Libya disaster on behalf of France. The letters from Hillary Clinton to Jake Sullivan or vice versa indicated they were doing that action on behalf of France. And I'm being very repetitive. I'll repeat it again. The Libya disaster was the beginning of the end for Western Europe and Africa.
There you go, and I agree with you on that.
And they will never. When I say Western Europe, that includes the United States, and they will never recover from it.
Yes. And we remind our listeners, you can go ahead. One of the books we read in the Running African Book Club is Professor Horace Campbell's book, the Nature's Catastrophic War in Libya. It lays it out clearly. So to move, looking at the Sahel and looking at those countries that are, it seems, revolutionary players in the region. Talk us through that. What happened in the Sahel over the last few years and where we are now in terms of the moves that these countries have made. Revolutionary.
Yes, obviously there were military coups in the three Sahel countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. And let me point out, I'm going to go back into prehistory. So if I'm taking people down a road, please bear with me for a second.
All right. Because, sorry to interrupt. Let me take a pre-break then, just to free you up to have a good moment to talk without a break. So let me do that. Remember what you're saying.
No problem. Okay.
Looking at the Sahel, looking at France in Africa, and the role that France played in shaping the current situation that's ongoing now in Africa. Just before we went to the break, Kwame, you, I think, were just about to put that into a historical context, historical background, I think, of France's involvement. Yes, go ahead.
And I'm going to go back to so-called prehistory. The Eye of Africa, which is called the Rashat structure, it's a circle within a circle within a circle, was pretty much known to be the seat of Atlantis, and that is in the Sahel countries. And then when you had a massive, I think it was a massive earthquake which caused a massive tsunami, it basically destroyed most of that society, and then it caused a great dispersal, particularly to the east, right? Mm-hmm. And so that culture moved east, and then out of that culture there was a settling in Lake Chad, and that came to become, and those people in Lake Chad settled Kemet. Those people also settled what is now the Sahel states. And it produced agriculture, the great civilizations, the great architecture, the great government structures that we see today. You move thousands of years, and for instance, where Chad is today, that was called the land of Yam. So, and in Kemet, they said that group from West Africa was just as responsible for their culture as the people to the south in the Nile Valley, right? Mm-hmm. And then let's fast forward to the Empire of Ghana, which was the leading country during its time period, despite the Arab invasions to the north of it. And then you had the Mali Empire, and then you had the Songhai Empire. Mm-hmm. So those are the three great empires in that same region, which were bigger than current-day United States. Yeah. So what you're seeing with the Sahel countries are, to me, the reigniting of the ancient empire. The other thing I want to remind you of, when Kemet fell, the people dispersing from the Nile Valley settled in Ouagadougou first, and then they dispersed to the west of West Africa, and integrated with the populations there in what is modern-day Ghana, what is modern-day Nigeria, what is modern-day Senegal. So there is a very spiritual importance to the Sahel countries reigniting the sovereignty and true functional Pan-Africanism as we see.
We saw that.
Of course, you had the coup.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was saying that we saw that, and I'm sure Sister P is listening, we saw that in Togo, the information you're giving, we saw the documentary evidence in the museums and the libraries of Togo in 1998. They're very proud of that history, of course. So the history you just outlined is the history they tell of themselves in West Africa.
Oh, I would love to see that. I would love to see that. Yes. Please, if you send that to me.
We saw that in Lomé. Yes.
Yeah, if they could send some links to me, I would love to see that. But the other, and I got a little bit distracted, but the other thing that you see as well with the Sahel countries is they're doing what I said that the Caribbean countries, if they had a military, should be done. They're taking their resources and economically benefiting from the resources. They're rewriting with the uranium mining companies, with the lithium mining companies, with the oil companies, so on and so forth. And because they're taking a greater percentage of those revenues, both Burkina Faso and Senegal were able to completely pay off their debts.
Mm-hmm.
So
let me ask you something. So let me ask you something about these two countries. So Burkina Faso, you're talking about in Western terms a coup. In Senegal, we're talking about an election. Does that make a difference? And before you answer, I don't know if you saw the Ibrahim Traore actually went to the inauguration of John Mahama.
Oh, that was beautiful in Ghana, and that I wanted to get to that later.
All right. Okay.
I want to discuss how is Ghana going to navigate their way out of the IMF trap, and is Mahama?
Yes,
and is Mahama trying to figure out a way to get out of that, considering the realities on the ground in Ghana.
All right. So hold that thought. We'll come back to it. The point I wanted to make was a point you were making just now about Senegal and Burkina Faso and those in the Sahel that came to have the power through the military, as opposed to those who have come in through an election. Their mandates are different.
Yes, because democracy does not represent the people's will.
Right.
In African countries, because the money and the support comes in from the West, and the media is still very dominated by Western perspectives, and so therefore you get these puppet leaders throughout Africa. Now Sonko, one of my good friends here where I live is Senegalese, and he loves Sonko, and he said that. And Sonko was jailed for a while, and actually DL Mifaye was his lieutenant.
Yes.
However, when Faye was elected, all the Western countries were somewhat enthusiastic about his election, and then he was carrying ECOWAS's water, trying to convince the AEF states to come back into ECOWAS. So, it gives me some suspicion of Senegal. However, another part of me says this is part of the the old saying, when your head's in lion's mouth, take time, draw it out.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
yes.
where Senegal is,
yes.
and because of the heavy French troop presence on their soil,
mm-hmm.
They may have taken time to do it. I think the difference between Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali, mm-hmm. the armies there were actually engaged in fighting, and they had because of their combat experience, they did have some leverage over the French presence over there. And then those military leaders immediately contacted the Russians when they announced they were kicking out the French. The Senegalese leadership has taken a lot of visits to Russia as well. So this may be part of it, and so has Chad.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the other day, and this may, Chad had a visit by the Chinese ambassador,
mm-hmm.
and then immediately the Chad's presidential palace was attacked after the Chinese ambassador left.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I know the foreign minister, Chad, said it wasn't a terrorist act, that they were using crude tools, but some people suspect France is behind it.
Of course, as always. And in Ghana, John Mahama himself is a socialist and who actually studied in Russia. And so that his relationship with, he says he's a student of Gorbachev. So it will be interesting to see how Ghana, which is really has, and I know you're coming back to that, but when you're looking at the changes that are happening generally in the Sahel and in West Africa, we're looking at countries that border each other. And may I just say to our listeners, just take your maps out, use your atlases if you have those, or Google Burkina Faso and Ghana on the map, because Burkina Faso is just north of Ghana. It's a border. But what was the relationship between Burkina Faso before with
Akufo-Addo? Very bad, because Akufo-Addo went to the principal, the United States, and complained Burkina Faso and Niger and Mali had those bad Russians in their territories, and something needed to be done about it, right? And Akufo-Addo represents the counter-revolution in Ghana. He represents his uncle was the one who overthrew Kwame. Well, not overthrew Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah had to put his granduncle in jail, and I'm trying to remember the guy's name, J.B. Dankwa. Mm-hmm. But J.B. Dankwa represented those forces that opposed Kwame Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah's program in Ghana. So Akufo-Addo is part of that legacy.
The forces that are aligned against us. This is what Kwame Nkrumah said. The forces that are aligned against us.
Exactly. And so, essentially, where I would like to see Ghana go is for instance, they have their gas prices are very high, even though there's oil exploration there. Mm-hmm. Well, they have the foresight to build a refinery there, so they can reduce the amount of money going outside of Ghana to pay for energy costs. Mm-hmm. With the increased rains in West Africa, will you upgrade the dam at Volta, the dam that Kwame Nkrumah built, to power for hydroelectric power? Will Ghana be able to have its own gold processing with gold mined from artisanal miners, right? Because we know the Chinese are coming in trying to steal Ghana's gold.
They have already done
that. Down on that.
They did.
Yeah.
No, they're in control. They're There are those mines with guns, Kwame.
Well, then that's something that needs to be done. Ghana needs to find other partners to counteract the Chinese. And there's plenty of other partners in West Africa now. Mm-hmm. The Turks, the UAE, the Russians. There's plenty of other partners to deal with, and they can tell China in no uncertain terms, if you want our support or if you want contracts from us, these guys have to go, right? Mm-hmm. And then you obviously have huge lithium deposits in Ghana. If lithium can be safely mined, and I'm not so sure it can be safely mined without rooting the groundwater, then Ghana needs to be able to take a significant portion of the revenues, and then they can pay off their debts that way and truly become a country that Kwame Nkrumah envisioned. Mm-hmm. So will they be able to do that in the 4-year term that Muhammad has? That'd be interesting to see. But it has to be very strategic. They have to be able to have several partners in addition to the United States that they already have, to play one off against the other. It has to be a balance of power.
So what do you think Ibrahim Traore's message was by making that trip? And boy, they looked good. Making that...
The message was because, one, he had to be invited there, right?
Right.
Initially, Muhammad's foreign secretary went to Niger. No, he went to Mali to invite Goita to the ceremony. And the initial reports, there was no reports of Burkina Faso being invited, and then Traore was invited. So I think it wasn't just a message from Traore; it was a message from Muhammad that at least publicly we stand with you, and look at the enthusiasm of the crowd of Traore compared to the other African leaders, including Faye. I mean, they may have gotten some polite claps, but it was you heard the.
Africa, Ghana erupted. And that's a massive crowd, and they erupted for Ibrahim Traore, and it tells me he's a leader now. The people of Africa and the African diaspora see him as a de facto leader, if you will, of this revolution, of this renaissance, of this change. Pardon me for using these French words. We need some words. We need some African words.
Yeah, let's say kepera, transformation. Kepera.
Yeah, and we need to teach ourselves and keep saying that. So just before I go to the break, and I want you to answer before I go into the break, is the movement, the changes we see happening in the Sahel. You're thinking on what kind of support in terms of, because we're in a global environment, is needed globally. Can Africa manage as it is, or external support is going to be needed to keep that confederation intact?
One is going to be external support from us in the diaspora. Mm-hmm. They're going to need engineers, particularly. They're going to need people who are expert in efficiency, how to build plants, how to run plants, things of that nature. They're going to need tool and die makers. They're going to need, for agricultural tools, even though you have the experience there. I mean, you have a lot of good blacksmiths, obviously, in all of West Africa. How do we get that to a point where you can get to a point of mass production? Not so much where you need these huge stamping machines and forging machines, but how do you help that artisanal miner, artisanal blacksmith increases means of production without expending a whole lot of capital costs to do that? So that's the sort of help that's going to be needed from the African diaspora. And then also with the great competition, with the decline of the West and the rise of the Eastern powers and BRICS, can they play that balance of power game to make sure that they can cut the deals that they want? And then what I'm very encouraged about, that these countries are demanding technology transfer, which is what should be done, which all the African countries should have been doing from independence. Kwame Nkrumah did it in the beginning. I think Modibo Keita demanded it, and Sekou Touré. Modibo Keita was the president of Mali. All these great Pan-Africans. Sekou Touré, obviously of Guinea, Conakry, right? So that's what needs to be done.
All right.
So we need to be open to go over there to help.
All right. Hold the line for me, Kwame. Let me take a quick break. I'll be back. We look at Africa, the Sahel in particular, and parts of West Africa. I think, not quite sure if we're going to be able to get to Ethiopia. Sorry, go ahead, Kwame.
Yeah, I just want to point out, too, there is also, again, I want to point out the Jamaican connection to that northern region of Ghana that borders Burkina Faso. Yeah. If you look at the records of runaway and Africans in Jamaica, quite a few were called Chamba people, Chamba, which was really a corruption of the name Konkamba. And they were from that northern region that borders both Togo and Burkina Faso. Actually, one of my ancestors was named Chamba.
And that's an interesting bit of information, because when you think of it, 1884 was when they actually demarcated those places according to country. But before that, there were ethnic groups and tribes, if you will, the Igbo people or the Bantu people or you know, stuff like that. So it is quite understandable, because we're looking at Ghana now just as that little area. Nigeria wasn't even a country. Nigeria was a company in terms of
a corporation. Exactly.
So it's important to know our history. Thanks for giving us that little tidbit.
And then from a spiritual perspective, that was the ancestor chariot too. That's Black Star Square.
What's that?
So this chew on that where Traore was chaired. Yes. That's Black Star Square.
Yes, of course. And you know, Kwame, you talk about the role of the diaspora for us to understand what our role in this African revolution that is taking place on the continent of Africa, that we should be part of that reshaping of the future of Africa. It's actually underway, as we see happening in the Sahel. At the same time, the military, this is where you started. So there are some countries with strong military, some countries that have come by, a coup. How important is the military in all of this? If there's no proper army, if there's no strong army, if there's no access to the army.
The purpose of a military is one, to protect your people, two, to protect your trading routes and your shipping lanes. If you don't have a strong military, then you're not really worth. If you don't have a military that's able to do that, then you have no business being called a country.
So this is important, and
so yeah. No, keep on going. No, you go ahead.
No, I'm saying, so we see the role that the military played in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and in Niger. Let's talk about the relationship then, as you said.
Yeah, and this is somewhat controversial. But I'm going to say this.
Yes.
I think all black countries who are really, truly, what I would say, want to be independent should have a draft. Anybody, a youth corps where you're 18. Once you're 18, you're going into the military.
Hopefully with a conscious mind. Hopefully with a conscious mind.
Yes. So there has to be. It would be a combination of university training in terms of cultural training for consciousness and military training And then once those people are released in society after the military training, then you have defenders throughout the whole society.
And this is where the point you made about Senegal earlier is relevant, because France still has its military, regardless of what he's saying about drawing down and allowing people to draw down and to announce and so on. France the military presence is still there on the continent of Africa.
Yes, and I think that's why they initially took a conservative approach, but now they've gotten a little bit more aggressive. I think they had some parliamentary elections in Senegal this last year, and it seems like the government's gotten a little more aggressive in terms of their verbal responses or their rhetorical responses towards France since the parliamentary elections occurred. So I think the party of Faye and Sonko won really big in those elections, and so I think that's the point. However, Faye and Sonko are somewhat kept in check by the Senegalese military, which is very still much in France's back pocket. So it'll be interesting to see how they can reform that military in the process.
So and this is why I'm taking, I think Macron took down his tweet, because I saw it and then I went back and couldn't find it. That threat, the threat he made on Twitter to Sonko, which in essence was to say, be careful what you say, because you will be sorry for what you've said. That kind of a bully. He literally bullied him, and he's so angry.
Yeah.
So, because quickly, Kwame, in just 2 or 3 minutes, help our listeners who don't know to understand how insidious France has been in Africa, and the whether it's military or financial or economic. The
CFA franc is where the so-called francophone African countries, France's neocolonial African possessions, have to put 65 to 75% of their revenues into the French central bank or French treasury, and the French treasury has no responsibility to account for those revenues, right? Also, they're responsible. French companies get right of first refusal for all contracts that these African countries make. You can basically say that France's wealth, all their social programs, all their free universities, all their social welfare is basically from African bellies, right? And then all those CFA franc countries are essentially, if you look at all the poverty indexes, those were all the poorest countries in the world. If you look at any economic or wealth rating, so France's legacy has been horrendous in Africa.
What do you think?
Parasites.
Parasites, indeed, vampires. What would you say? I'm just looking on now. If you can gauge this, the France's influence and control in the Sahel and in those countries that it colonized, even on the backside of the revolution. Did I lose you, Kwame? I think I did. Former Member of Parliament for St. Mary's South Eastern, Harry Douglas, has died at hospital. He was 83 years old. He passed away at the St. Joseph's Hospital in Kingston. A member of the People's National Party, Douglas served as a Member of Parliament from 1989 to 2007 before retiring from representational politics. He also served as Minister of State in the Ministry of Water and Housing, a senior member of the St. Mary's Southeastern Executive. This is the Observer, told the Observer that Douglas was ailing for some time and that the PNP family were grateful for his contribution to St. Mary and the nation at large. Standing by to speak again with Kwame Pianke. Also, just quickly, I don't know if you have been checking, listening to what's happening with Mark Zuckerberg. He's been talking a lot. Well, he has pivoted. Everybody's pivoting, going into technocracy. So he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, It was an explosive 3-hour podcast where he talked about how the U.S. government threatened Facebook and Meta, why Facebook changed after Trump won, and why Facebook is now ditching fact checkers. He also talked about the beginning of Facebook. He said in the first decade, Facebook had one mission, which was to give the people a voice, no fact checkers, no content policies, no ideological censorship, just pure free expression, and everything changed in 2016. I want to come back to that later because Mark Zuckerberg actually proves a point that we're making, that we're entering, moving from democracy to technocracy. I hear people talking about oligarchy, but I understand why they're saying oligarchy, because they're looking at the business people. But this is technocracy. I mean, it has everything to do with technocracy written all over it. Mark Zuckerberg moving in this direction tells us that we are right about how we're reading the tea leaves. All right, so Kwame is back with us online. I don't
know what part I got cut off there. I don't know.
I was asking a question actually. I was because we heard everything you said, and then I'd asked, what do you think France is just looking at? Whatever we can see now, because it's not much, but it's fluid and it's ongoing. But I know that you're an analyst and looking at this closely. France's control and influence. Obviously, we know they're losing influence, they're losing control. But to what extent do you think there's still a whole lot of that left? West Africa.
They have control. They have control over Cote d'Ivoire. They have control over Gabon. They have control over Benin, who is giving Niger problems of transporting gas to the port there in Benin, and they've struck up relationships with West African countries, particularly the English-speaking countries, particularly Nigeria, and at the time was under Akufo-Addo's administration in Ghana, right? Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting what France's relationship with Ghana will be with Mahama in office, and whether that'll be reduced. But Tinubu is their man, and the U.S.'s man in West Africa.
Tinubu is
Nigeria.
Well, karma is going to come to him, and it's about time too. He's one of the great betrayers on the continent of Africa. Let us just call a spade a spade.
Yeah, not just great betrayer in the continent of Africa, and this is, and I can say this because it's pretty much been documented. There is very good evidence that he was involved in narcotics dealing in the United States when he was based in Chicago.
Oh goodness. And this is where these are some of the compromise
the worst of the worst.
Yeah. Huh? This is the kind of compromise that whether it's the US, the UK, the European Union, or Israel holds over a lot of these leaders, and hence we find ourselves in the positions that we find ourselves. In terms of Burkina Faso is landlocked, and in terms of trade, shipping, and so on, that shipping route is usually through Ghana. So I think one of the things to me is that relationship is critical, Burkina Faso and Ghana. France in the middle of that would be chaotic. But I don't know if you heard the inauguration speech John Mahama gave, in which he made some serious references to BRICS, and you just talked about that. Do you think that?
Yeah, I didn't hear the whole speech. I heard where I saw the interview with Mahama where he called Traore his younger brother. But go ahead, fill me on that.
Well, he seems to be. He literally made a comparison talked about the GDP of the West and the GDP of BRICS, and said, well, there you go. Who should literally the question was open. So who do you think we are going to go with? This is what it sounded to me as if he was saying ultimately. But he's dancing between the raindrops because Ghana, Addo, what his name was, he tied Ghana in some serious ways. To the West.
Yes, he did. And again, the IMF agreement, he really indebted Ghana. I think his decision to shut down the economy during COVID further indebted Ghana. Mm-hmm. Now, let's be fair, the previous party also indebted Ghana, which was Mahama's party. Mm-hmm. I think both parties, and then before Mahama in that same party was Atta Mills, who I thought was more visionary than it would appear. And he died mysteriously as well. Yes. But I think the biggest mistake when the oil discoveries were made off the Ghana coast was not having a refinery built.
So how do you see Ghana coming out of this, getting out of the clutches of the IMF? Because they were like Jamaica, they jumped for this IMF monies in the middle of COVID.
As I said before, I think Ghana is more capable than Jamaica of doing it because there's so many players in West Africa that, again, they can demand refinery, especially for the oil, as I said before, a refinery to be built and have technology transfer, and whoever helps them build that refinery, they can give some sort of price preferences to them, right? And then that, but also the importance of that refinery, Ghana no longer has to basically lose their local currency to foreign actors to run their energy needs in their economy. And then again, as I stated before, Ghana needs to rehab the Volta Dam for hydroelectric power, especially with the rains increasing in West Africa. And we spoke about the gold mining, and we spoke about the potential lithium mining that they have over there in Ghana. And so I think, and if they take preferential contracts there, I think it's easier for them to get out of debt.
What role do you see the regional organizations or the regional the organizations like ECOWAS and so on and the Africa Union playing in this?
I think the African Union and ECOWAS are toothless, and I think ECOWAS, effectively, even though it was just a name, will no longer exist in functionality in a couple of years. But I think, you have various leaders in ECOWAS who weren't too happy with the aggressive stance taken by both Nigeria and Ghana and trying to threaten military action against Sahel states, and, including Gambia and I think some of the other countries, the two Guineas weren't happy with it. And so I think ECOWAS will only function as a ceremonial organization. And the African Union, I can't take the African Union seriously. Any organization where you have your headquarters built by a foreign power, the Chinese, who then also have bugs in your headquarters, and also where you are asking Israel to be an observer there, I just can't take the African Union seriously.
I agree with you. I'm in total agreement with that. So how does it look now going into 2030? There is an agenda on the table, never our agenda, but every country, especially developing countries, have been locked into this agenda by the United Nations and the WEF, which is Agenda 2030 or Vision 2030, but it really is an agenda. We see they have fast-tracked that through the United Nations with the Pact for the Future and the Global Digital Compact and the Declaration of Future Generations. How do you see these impacting the gains that are being made in Africa?
Basically, what I see 2030 as is an attempt by the oligarchs of the West to rebrand themselves as they have already sucked the blood out of their own societies. So they're going to rebrand themselves to try to they want to bring just a little bit of development to the global South, right? I think these African countries and Caribbean countries, back to the whole head, when your head's in lion's mouth, take time to draw it out. They're going to have to play that balance of power role so they can cut their own independent path outside of these Bretton Woods institutions, like the UN and the IMF and the World Bank.
So is this where BRICS come in, even though BRICS is still just trying to find its own footing? Yeah,
BRICS is, and I'll say this again, BRICS is also a little bit in the back pocket of these oligarchs.
True.
As well.
Yeah.
The oligarchs have to cut a deal with the Asian oligarchs, but we've talked about who was the funder of the New Development Bank in BRICS, which is Standard Federal, which was a big colonial bank when Cecil Rhodes was invading Azania.
I want to, and I hope we can come back to that when we talk about Somalia and what's happening in the Horn of Africa. But can we talk quickly before you go about obviously the role of BRICS in all of this, but where do you see who's going to lead Africa out of this? Do we need a leader out of this, or is this a situation where this is generic and people are finding their footing organically?
I think it's going to be generic. I think it's going to be a collective thing. Because remember, in African, I don't want to call it democracy, African people participation, right? Monarchy is elected in Africa by the people. And then there's a destillment process that can be initiated, not just by the Council of Elders, but by, like, say, for instance, the Akan Society, the, what is the youth group called? The Ahafo, I believe. I'm trying to remember what the name of it is.
From where?
Asafo.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the youth have a role in destilling bad leadership, right? So representation, so kingship, queenship, call it whatever you want. Political leadership is representative of the will of the masses. And I think it's going to be a collective role for us to lead ourselves. But we're going to have to come up with structures that are indigenous to us, governmental structures that are indigenous to us, participation in the political process, which is indigenous to us. Like, for instance, in Jamaica, what I would love to see is not just people voting for a president, but people voting on bills itself, direct participation.
Yes.
Or you tell your representative you are going to vote for this bill, and if you don't vote for this bill, if the representative doesn't accede to the community's will for a certain bill, then that representative is automatically put into recall.
Mm-hmm. And so that takes...
And that's my vision for the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to take a paradigm shift. It's going to take re-education. Last week we announced that we're reading again 1984, George Orwell, and there's something there that talks about double think, where the miseducation of the Jamaican people has led to double think. It's deliberate.
Double think.
It is.
Yeah. It's funny. I read 1984 in high school.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing about it, if you read about George Orwell's background, he was part of the he was the writer for the Round Table Group.
He understands it very well, and this is why it's important to kind of pay some attention to some of what he has written about, because we are literally experiencing a lot of that right now. Almost.
Oh yeah, because he was writing for what the technocracy wanted, because when I read 1984 when I was in high school, we had some very good teachers, because we were thinking, this is reflective of a communist state at the time, right? In your high school thinking. And our teacher said, "Really? Is it?"
Yes.
And then then you find out Orwell was writing on behalf of the people in the Round Table Group. Right. The Rothschilds, the various Lord Lothian, all those sort of people. So basically, 1984 and Brave New World was a wish list.
And here we are, but here we are. We're able.
And here we are, exactly.
It's interesting.
Remember, in 1984, they talked about the TV that watches you.
Yes.
Well, your computer and your phone watches you.
Well, here we
while
are.
you're watching it.
Yes.
Here we are, yeah.
And now this concept of doublethink, which, we also call it, and Sheikh Antajia called it cognitive dissonance, and others before him.
Yeah.
This is a concept that refers to the ability to hold two contradictory ideas or opinions simultaneously and accepting both of them as true. This is how the Jamaican people are being governed today, holding two contradictory ideas and holding both as true, because the government tells them one thing, they are experiencing another thing. Both things are contradictory, but they hold them as true because they're like Pavlov dogs where party is concerned. So this is where we find ourselves. It is a very, very critical place that we've found ourselves, cause, and I really do hope that we can get out of it. We're totally out of
time. The way to get out of doublethink, don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do.
Simply put, and
when it comes to government,
very effective.
It's very simple.
Very effective.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kwame Pianke, as usual. I think we're going to make space for you next week, if you're available, to look at the Horn of Africa. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's very interesting about it. Because, again, we have the great power game going on there, too.
Of course. This is interesting times. Thank you so much, Kwame Pianke, geopolitical analyst and Pan-African scholar. A video clip, deep fake, TikTok video clip going around that has slandered Mota Baruka in some very serious ways. I want to talk to him a little bit about his response to that and, where we are in terms of if anything can be done, but also to have him online just to talk a little bit about that. So we're standing by to speak with Mota Baruka on that viral video, as a TikTok video. It's deepfake, artificial intelligence, AI, deepfake, artificial intelligence. We're in some very serious times. Let me just say that, where artificial intelligence has literally taken over, and so much can be done with artificial intelligence that that's criminal, that can literally ruin people's reputations, and there has to be controls. But I know that so far, governments all over the world, including Jamaica, are totally behind artificial intelligence and where it is going. So now we have a deep fake of what is purporting to be Mota Baruka on the social media. We're joined now by my brother and friend. Greetings, Mota.
Blessed morning, ma'am.
Morning, sir. But you're going to be on Sirius XM today? You're going to be on
XM.
Yes. Because I hear it in the promo. All right. Mota, the interesting times we're living in, I mean, me and you, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence.
Well, I tell you. I don't know which part to start this conversation.
Let me start it for you. So let me put things in perspective. Because a few months ago, I was on the social media. I saw Judy Ma'At talking about a product. And I'm saying, but I didn't even know.
I saw that.
I didn't even know Judy Ma'At was ill. And this product, so it got me for a minute, and then I looked at it and I said, no, that's not Sister Judy at all. And then there was another, I think it's the same one where Michael Abrahams was pushing the product.
I saw that too.
And Michael came out and he said, that's deep fake, that's not me. And we had many discussions about it. But here we are now, where they're, this time.
Attack me now.
They have come at you. The thing about this, though, is that while they had them pushing product, this one is egregious.
And my personality and my history, The problem with it, is that it's two things that say go on. So it's either somebody who are a group of ones who's really vexed based upon how the program has taken root over the years, and it is continuing to take root not only in Jamaica but all over the world, I should say.
Yes.
Or some person who hear me say, look, me go into this homosexual thing, this thing, it's not going to work out. And take grievance against it and decide that I'm going to do this. But the problem with it, is that we've gone too far right now for them turn back where we are though. The thing is not like a baby again. It's not like when it started in the 90s. Though it's 2025. The thing take root, and I know and everything. I know, say, this little madness where them go out with on the internet. Not going to stop nothing. I'm confident in that. Say, it's not going to stop nothing. As a matter of fact, it might make people more vexed with them.
And this is the point, because this is the immediate response. What they have done, and so our listeners who have not heard it understand, is that obviously it is AI, which means they have sampled. If you put it so everybody understands, it's almost like sampling your voice, so that when you listen, there's no way that you can tell that this is not Mota. It is not a Sister Judy situation where you could have tell say it's not Judy. They have made it so real, because this is a real artificial intelligence. This is where they have reached. And the point that I heard you making, Mota, which is not gonna stop right here, so no. We don't in the valley very, very long time, and we never get where we are.
No, we never get where. But a couple months ago, when the book will come out where we ask you to talk at, right?
Yes.
A youth come to me, not a reputable youth, come to me and say, Mota, you have a audio book on this book, yeah? I say, no. Them say, say, you know what I do? I say, well, of course, I have a book. More people listen to book now than read a book.
Yes.
So I say, here what I do now. Now I can go on my studio and give me 20 minutes in the studio. We'll say some read part of the book for 20 minutes or less. And we do an audio book. I say, hey, you can't do that? I say, yeah, then that's a go on now. And now we listen to a tune where somebody says Rihanna do. And it's not Rihanna do the truth. Right. And everybody has said Rihanna new tune. Rihanna says it's not Rihanna new. So this AI thing, yes. It's really something. It's weird. It's weird, man.
It's frightening.
That people are going to make you do things and say things where you never say and never do.
And this is the bottom line, that they can put words in your mouth and make you the exact opposite of who you are.
Yes, yes. And this is an example of it.
Yes.
Because, you know, our man really sit down in himself and really configure that thing. It's either him have that in a film life or her life and want to project it for me. Or him directly as he say, no, this virgin here, him a wheel too much influence on the radio.
Let me take him down a peg.
Yeah, them have to take me down now because no man fire shut up a man again and all them there. Man I use them where you have
the technology.
The technology. And them use your reputation against you.
Yes.
See him by saying no, this and this that. So people say, well, I never know Muta. I'm not this stream again, Rasta. Them kind of way there. And that is I personally think that is the reason for it. That people recognize, look at now, this virgin here, he might get too popular with a radio program.
Mm-hmm,
you know, see, and it's all over the place. It's the most recorded program on any radio in Jamaica. And I remember years ago when we had toured Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Them used to tape the programs, see, and sell it in Europe. Yeah.
I remember.
And one night in Italy, right? And a youth outside, African youth outside, I tape them spread out. I said, you know, and just almost go to confiscate the tape. She got to clear out the tape.
Do you know, Muta? I saw that in Osopo. I saw that in Italy, in Osopo, where I think I tell you too, where cutting edge tapes were just spread out. This was when 1990, oh much now, Sister P. No, I think Sister P was there 1996, 97, one of them years there. And phenomenal. But yes, go ahead.
England, I tell you that incident. I go to England and a virgin say, if I can go up on one road, where them have cutting edge. When we go up on the road, you know, the brother have a big style with cutting edge CD, labeled, title, when we talk about that thing. I mean, I say, they're not just a cutting edge guy. I mean, some never know, so it's so popular.
And it moved from there when the convergence and the digital technologies to online with, and as you said, most recorded it with the YouTube videos and and all that. I remember the days when I call you and say, Muta, you know, say the program.
Yeah. I'm not about to hear. Some youth actually the program take life so much that some youth sit on at night time and keep the program and edit out the advertisement and the music. And put it up there for the next morning.
Yes.
So I think that's all I say.
So you see this? I agree with you, Muta, because it seems to me as if there is a deliberate attack on your person, on your character, on against your principles, everything that you stand for. This is exactly where they went. So this is deliberately meant to harm. And
definitely harm. It's an harm thing. They want to harm my reputation to be who me is. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
By fabricating a scandal. This is basically what it is, fabricating a scandal.
We're not going to stop, Kabu. We're not going to stop. Them little things they can't deter me and turn around and I say, well, I'm not bother with this because people are fighting against me. People have fighting against me a long time and I never stop. And it's not going to make me stop. But I'm we kind of get more vicious now with that stuff.
Well, Muta,
You encourage me, Muta, because me come under some heavy onslaught this week, which I was going to talk about later. And, it kind of shake everything that I believe in. I start questioning myself, but when I hear you say this, you know.
Because I wonder if you lost get both this and
yes, like.
But to go your own business and you realize you make a commitment to yourself.
Yes, yes.
You know, say, this is who you is, this is what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to make no politician, no little guy out there.
Yes.
Try nothing after you. And, you know, you have people out there who will look on it, you know, because you have some youth out there, you know, them can't discern, say, this thing here, I know Muta. Mm-hmm. Because I remember say twins. When twins just come on the scene, you know.
Me they call you.
Yes, no, we could have tell people in Jamaica say no Muta, you know.
Me they call him, me say Muta, you have to put a stop to it.
I remember when somebody tell Jackie about oh boy Muta attack and of course some bad old politics and she'll try to show them say, look, it's not Muta. Them I said, no, Miss Jackie. No, Miss Jackie.
But one of the things I liked about how you dealt with that is that so you didn't think that you needed to put a whole lot of pressure on them, but I know you spoke to them, and it was a parody, and they identified themselves as parody, and I think after a while too, they took out some of
No, but you know, it's me and the view there.
Yeah,
me and the view the turn friend, you know.
Yes, I'm not surprised.
Because you know, alright, when I think the mother did pass, you know, and them asked me, can come at the funeral. I say yeah. Yes. I don't know if they ask me for me say no, but I them say yeah. When we go there, you know, they're frightened. And then they're frightened, and then we say, yeah, but you tell me you invite some of us. No, everything with them do have something there about mood. Them do a video, a karate video, and the villain in there. A Muta, and them actually say Muta, and people always stop me on the road and I say, Muta, you know them man, them say, yeah, I know them. So what you think? I say, what you think? I'm a bridging them man, make them go and eat a food. I'm going to go to them, you know, I say, watch out now. You see, anytime me get old, and me can't walk, you have to go buy me a rocking, a chair, what do you call it?
A wheelchair.
A wheelchair, you know, because I would make so much money off of me. We make so much money off of it. But all of that is to say this, that the youth, them did do something where if me never am right thinking, because that's everything I want to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But talk to that with my boys and them there, but you know, it carry me things further.
Yes.
From you to nobody that listen to the program, it carry me things further.
Exactly. With this slander from TikTok now, Muta.
TikTok in the pan?
I think yes, it's TikTok. Any idea?
I don't TikTok. You said meat pan, so I don't TikTok.
Muta, you have to tell people that we said it.
I don't know where to send me. I don't know.
So the thing is, you can't even. I'm sure that there might be someone who can get to the source of it, but I'm not even sure if it's worth it. What's your own thinking?
Get to the source of it. Look, you know, whosoever will let, and whosoever will come. So I say no. If I want out there, believe it. Make him go and believe it.
Mm-hmm.
If I want out there, say I want that. I'm about Muta. Muta not. What am I talking about? Muta not this and Muta not that. I'm going to go and think it. Because somebody called me yesterday, you know, and I said, them do everyone repost it.
Mm-hmm.
The way them vex about it, them do everyone repost it.
Right.
So, I don't know. You know,
yes.
if you want to go through that thing, then
and I agree with you, but I think here is just for what we're doing and what is being done in Jamaica, which is to say we are aware that there is a deep fake AI video
of my voice.
Yeah.
And then put a picture. Hey, all right, this is what I like with them youth, you know. Because I like with them youth. And then I put up the program and then put a headline. You know, I'm not to do what I say inside there. You know. Muta attack this.
Yes.
And then put up all that gun in my hand and a pine for all the private.
Yes, it is to get clicks. I the same thing.
Yeah. When we realize that now, so them do it. But I say, I tell you one time to take down things, you know.
Yes. Because they're endangering you, you know. That's the thing. They don't realize that they're putting you in danger.
Yeah, and them so light that them don't even know says that them are do.
Right.
Them just want clicks. And now me and sister watch you know. All right, you see this one you know. Me now go corona. Come on, people are here, you know, and them go God figure out. Why them have to go figure out which part is there and all them stuff.
Yes.
But me just make it clear that we only see this so is an AI configuration what them call a parody of somebody like all them parody. Like I don't know if it's the thing with Trump and Bounty Killer.
Yes.
Yes,
I see.
Yeah, and Bounty and Trump and Putin.
Yes.
And them about Putin of course bad word and thing.
Yes.
You know, so that is where the thing reach. That is where it reach now.
Yeah, it's fabricated. When it's just for fun, that's okay. But here we have a fabricated scandal, and it is, and they're trying to make it a scandal, and it is reputation sabotage. So we are underscore that, underline that, we understand it as such. But as we hear our brother and our friend Muta saying right now, that not gonna stop nothing. We so
no man, it can't stop no man. Yes, man, that's the one thing there. I break me up in a me, you know. Yes. And it not come out. So, you know, that now, so I could have spread propaganda. You know, Bob Marley have a tune. Them try a backyard. Propaganda spread over my name. They want to bring another life in shame. You know? What
the name of that song? The Draw Bad Card, come here, try
Bad Card, I think a Bad Card is name.
Go and talk, make me find it.
Yeah, make me do more like Bob.
What's up, man?
Anyway, we just want to tell the people them say, what they hear is not real. It's not real. And I am thinking is that it is reflecting the person who do it.
That's the point of it. Make we leave it right there, sir.
Reflect the person who do it. It don't have nothing to do with me.
Answer it.
I hate that.
Ventures draw. We were talking about that explosive 3-hour podcast that Mark Zuckerberg did with Joe Rogan and some of the issues that came out there. One of the things we noticed, and we were broadcasting throughout COVID, and throughout COVID, we kept saying that, IFM, I think, was even taken off the air. We did some YouTube. We were broadcasting live. YouTube took us down because we were talking about COVID. We were talking about the vaccines. We were raising questions. We were asking questions. We were banned by Facebook. We were banned by quite a few different social media sites. That's myself as a journalist. Now we have Mark Zuckerberg coming out and confessing, but he's not confessing. He's a dry guy, part of the technocracy. There's part of the technate, the Trump technate, if you will. And one of the things he said that after Trump's election, institutions started demanding censorship, and that by 2020, government agencies were screaming at Meta employees. They were using profanities, they were making threats, they were demanding content removal, and that all of that is documented in congressional investigations. He also pointed out that the Biden administration wanted Facebook to remove vaccine side effects content. So anybody talked about side effects content, I was talking widely. I made a lot of videos and a lot of programs of the side effects of the vaccines. And he said he was told by the Biden administration to take that down. And even he said if the information was true, the Biden administration demanded that they took that down. And he said when Facebook refused, Biden declared that Facebook was killing people. And then he said multiple agencies launched investigations into Facebook. He said it wasn't just the U.S. government, it was the European Union, and that the European Union fined tech companies over $30 billion. He said when the U.S. attacked its own tech companies, it gives other countries permission to do the same, and that this created a dangerous precedent. He also went on to say that the U.S. government should defend American companies, and that instead they became the tip of the spear attacking them. Well, I don't know if you know, there's something happening where TikTok, they say TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, ByteDance, and they have to, so TikTok is about to be banned. I don't know if you watched the Supreme Court arguments. On Friday, I watched all of that. I listened to all of that. They are going to ban it on the 19th of January, barring a miracle, they're going to ban it in the United States. My understanding is
You know where I stand on TikTok, right? Which is that there needs to be controls in place. There needs to be provisions in place to protect children. And that there's something happening in Jamaican TikTok that is beyond vulgar. So that needs to be dealt with. But outside of that, so they're going to ban it. But my understanding is that if they ban in America, those who have the TikTok app on their phones will still be able to keep the apps on their phone and will still be able to use TikTok, as happened in Brazil and some other countries over time, but that they won't be able to update the apps and so on and so forth. I don't know all the details, but this is where it seems to be going. But Mark Zuckerberg and Meta and Elon Musk, regardless of whether he said so or no, but Mark Zuckerberg in particular and Google, they have been behind. They lobby the U.S. government for TikTok to be banned because this is too much competition for them. We're moving into another age. We just had that discussion with Muta Baruka. It tells us where we are. It tells us what time of day it is. It is where the technology is going. And so what we find now is that for everything is happening all at once everywhere. Pay attention. There is a pivot to technocracy and transhumanism. The digital technologies, the convergence of the digital technologies allowed for that. 5G technology allowed for that. 6G technology, which is now in place, allows for that. So here we are. Elon Musk just announced that he has put a brain chip in a third human being. So that the other two, he says, fine, and there's now a third human being that they have put a brain chip into. So this is where we are, Google and Meta are responsible for a lot of the lobbying against the competition. We hear Mark Zuckerberg saying that the technology should be for individuals and not for corporations and not for one person. Well, that's good news, but let us see what happens, because he says if it is in the hands of corporations, then this is going to be godlike. He says whoever has the technology, this is going to be godlike. AI technology is talking about. So anyway, it's 8:30 and we're standing by for the Supreme Ventures draw. We're watching what's happening with Mark Zuckerberg, with Elon Musk, with the technocrats and the oligarchs, of course. And of course, we'll spend some time talking about this pivot from democracy to technocracy and transhumanism. As we stand by for the Supreme Ventures draw, 8:30 on IWFM. It's Saturday, and we're going to be there. We're going to be there from its start until the next morning. Tony Rebel, Lolly Bella, my brother. We're looking forward to Rebel Salute coming up on the weekend. We're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. This is Running Africa, and live on the phone lines. He is a global citizen because he is from Trinidad, was a top, do I say operative? Because I know he might not like the word operative, but he's been involved in politics in Trinidad for many, many years, and in publishing, in African-centeredness. He is also an analyst in the vein of some of the greatest that we have with us now and some that have gone. And we're really happy to have this brother, Brother Ako Mutota, online, who is also the founder of 7 Continents. And Brother Ako, finish the complete organization for me. 7 Continents?
7 Continents Center for Research and Policy.
7 Continents Center for Research and Policy. And your Brother Ako Mutota is no stranger to the Africa Forum. He's been in this space many times, and we're happy to welcome him back this January. Thank you so much for joining us. Where are you now, Brother Ako? Is it Atlanta or Trinidad?
I'm in Atlanta. Came from Trinidad a couple of weeks ago.
So you've never had you've never had the cascadura?
I'm a vegetarian.
Because those who eat the cascadura must return to Trinidad.
That's what they say when I'm a vegetarian.
No wonder you're in Atlanta. Anyway, it's good to have you online again, my beloved brother.
Good to have you.
Yes.
Good morning to you, and New Year greetings to you and your family, Sister Kabu.
Thank you so much.
And also to your listening audience. And I also want to give a power shout out to the people of Haiti on the 221st anniversary of their independence, which occurred on January 1st. So that's what I want to begin with, so that we remember the people of Haiti. As I've always stated in many of my webinars on Haiti, we have a duty to remember. And one of our principal duties is to remember the Haitian people, their struggles, and what they are going through right now.
Our moral obligation. Brother
Yes.
Ako, in this segment of the program, obviously, we've been saying it all morning, our theme, we announced it last week for the year. We are on our own. The choice is ours. Reshaping the future of Africa and the Caribbean for our children. We're looking back to go forward where Sankofa Ing just had an enlightening conversation with Kwame Pianke, and now we're going to be talking about the Sahel. Now we're going to be talking about the Caribbean, and I want to start where you started, because even though there's so much happening in Trinidad, where you're from, where we should really start, and not to mention what's happening in Jamaica, but I think it's important to center and foreground IT in this conversation as we look back to go forward and look at where we are, the state of ourselves as Caribbean people. How important is what is happening in IT right now, Brother Ako, to the state of the Caribbean, if you will? It might be a stretch, but how do you think that there is a connection?
Well, it's not a stretch. It is all the issues are connected. What is happening in Haiti is a continuation of the neo-colonial order in the Caribbean, in which imperialism, have not given up on reconquering us, and so the situation in Haiti is one of resistance, and so because they resist, they are constantly under pressure and under threat, and it is wise for us in the English-speaking Caribbean to learn the lessons from the Haitian people, which I don't think we are learning. In fact, in preparing for this interview this morning, I went back to the 1962 Marlborough Conference, in which the leaders of the Caribbean, who they went to London basically to ask or beg for independence. And the thing I noted in those conferences, in that conference, is that when they came back and they got independence, Trinidad in 62, Jamaica in 62, and Trinidad also in 62, they never really spoke about emancipation. Not a single leader spoke about the emancipation process. Mm-hmm. We came into independence on the basis of this so-called Westminster model of democracy. And it is very interesting. I was listening to this calypso by the mighty Gabi, the calypsonian from Barbados.
Yes.
And there is a line in the calypso that I think is very, very relevant to our discussion, a couple lines, and which the calypso is called West Indian Politician. And one of the lines says, West Indian politician, the more I check out your evil ploy, the more you sound like a Westminster choir boy. When I check out your history, because you trade in England, Westminster choking we, right? So this is the reality of life in the Caribbean. These institutions that we so-called inherited, right, all of them have failed the people in the Caribbean. And consequently, they are failing Haiti because they are unwilling to act in a sovereign manner. And so the issue here is that Haiti continues to fight for its sovereignty, and we have surrendered ours. Right? We have surrendered ours, as Gabi said, our leaders are Westminster choir boys, right? And not just speaking to a political doctrine, but they are choir boys for neoliberalism, economic exploitation, selling out our sovereignty, right? In fact, it is so interesting. I was looking at something, I think I was in a conversation with someone, and he asked me a question about the Caribbean, and I sort of interpreted it in terms of Marxist-Leninist philosophy. And there's a line Marx uses in his philosophy, in which he talks about the lumpen proletariat. I'm going to read it for you to understand what we're dealing with.
Yes, go ahead.
And he said, the lumpen proletariat is a class of people who have lack awareness of their collective interests as an oppressed class, right? Mm-hmm. In the modern usage, it is commonly defined to include the chronically unemployed, the homeless, and career criminals. Now, that's how Marx sort of described the lumpen proletariat. And I, in my thinking, came to a conclusion, the Caribbean have a paradox. Mm-hmm. We have lumpen at the top and lumpen at the bottom. Right? Because our political class are a bunch of criminals and direct criminals. So we are in a paradoxical situation.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
The bottom, according to Marx, right, in his class analysis, the bourgeoisie own the means of production and machinery. These people don't know anything. Everything we want for now, they're selling it out.
Yes.
So we have the paradox in the English-speaking Caribbean of lumpen at the bottom and lumpen at the top.
It's interesting because you weren't even listening, and this morning I spoke about the Professional Association of Hitmen, which is masquerading as politicians, particularly here in Jamaica. This is basically what we have. This is our experience. I want to take a quick break, but to come back to talk about that betrayal, because there is, because, and there's another quote I'm going to use, because we on Haiti, we continue to maintain this silence. We have turned a divergent gaze, and we are, Jamaica is like the Dominican Republic in our stance on Haiti. But I'm not quite sure what we're seeing with CARICOM. So I want to talk a little bit about that and then to go deeper into what's happening in Trinidad and Barbados and so on. So let me take a quick break, Brother Akko. I'll be right back. Lines, Brother Akko Mutota. We're talking about reshaping the future of the Caribbean for our children, but we're looking at the state of the Caribbean right now. Brother Akko, we laughed going into the break because you talked about lumping at the top and lumping at the bottom for our politicians, and we laughed at that, but that was a very serious commentary on the state of the Caribbean, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. What we have across the Caribbean now, with the exception of a few, is political gangsterism masquerading as politics, Yeah. Our leaders are signing deals that are tying us, basically re-enslaving us. And I have an issue which I've commented on several times, in which a lot of our academics are referring to this era as post-colonial. That's what you see in all the writings and commentary. Mm-hmm. We are not post-colonial, we are neo-colonial.
Yes.
Right?
And settler colonial, if you throw in the new settlers.
And more and more.
Yes.
And so when and the reason I'm making these statements is because to understand how we have to shape the future, we have to understand where we are now.
Yes.
Right? And we are not understanding that. In fact, I cited the Marlborough Conference in which they were all going to England. Mm-hmm. And, when you look at it now, we have not changed much. I mean, a lot of our academics and leaders are always running to The Hague, to Brussels, to Geneva, and to London, either begging for grants or begging for some to do reparations. Mm-hmm. Right? So you look at this situation and you ask yourself, what has changed from 1962 to now? Quantitatively, yes. Qualitatively, no. I tend to see these societies as what you may call a defective washing machine and spin cycle. Mm-hmm. A lot of activity, but nothing productive. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Except from the masses who create their art and create and so on. But you look at our political leadership class and our intellectual class, they do not produce anything meaningful.
Was there at any time... You talked about 1960, well, in the 60s when, there were so many so-called independents and people were coming back from Marlborough and so on, and we're talking about independence, but there wasn't any talk of emancipation. Was there any promise in as far as you looking across the Caribbean, in these Caribbean countries, in terms of leadership of fulfilling that promise of emancipation? Did we see that anywhere? And did we lose that along the way from any country?
The sad reality in the context of Trinidad was this. Immediately after 1838, the Africans were observing independence up to about 1920, I think it was, right? But there was a principal figure, a man called Mozumbo Lazare, who was the first Trinidadian to change his name to an African name. He was very prominent in Trinidad circles. And he and others like him were celebrating independence. Not even emancipation, sorry. They were celebrating emancipation. Mm-hmm. And they at one point petitioned the crown for it to be made into a holiday. And the British denied them and instead replaced Emancipation Day with Discovery Day. Mm-hmm. This is part of Trinidad and Tobago history. So that emancipation spirit was running in the country, even when Williams was negotiating for independence. Mm-hmm. When he came back from Marlborough, he made a lot of fancy statements, about Master Day done and so on, and then consequently he created something called the Concordat, which gave education back to the Catholic Church. Right? It was not until 1985 when the organization I was part of, the National Joint Action Committee, lobbied for years to make Emancipation Day a holiday, that the government made Emancipation Day a holiday. Mm-hmm. And subsequently other governments in the Caribbean did. But from 1962 to 1985, nothing was done to celebrate and to highlight that part of our history, which was so significant to the rebuilding of the Caribbean people and Caribbean civilization.
Talk about the element within the different Caribbean countries that would ensure that days like Emancipation Days are shelved, because the private sector organization in Jamaica right now is calling for a rollback on the Emancipation date celebration, which is August 1, and to roll it up into some other things and move it around according to what the calendar says. So this is our reality right now. We're fighting that. It's just a handful of us that's fighting that. But what do we have? I think you talked about the lumpen proletariats a while ago, and the lumpen. And I think we cannot ignore the class struggle in the Caribbean and those who control, whether it's corporations or multinational corporations, these globalists who are running the Caribbean and have ensured that there is this demarcation by class, lumpen proletariats, if you will, but that hierarchical situation that exists within the Caribbean. How is that affecting the ability of the Caribbean to progress, to grow?
Well, that is the critical element. They have always been the if you want to call it, the gatekeepers for colonialism. And they continue today to be the gatekeepers for the modern versions of colonialism, neo-colonialism, imperialism, and what we call neoliberalism. That class still exists in the Caribbean. At one point in time, they were mainly light and white, but now they have incorporated a lot of people of African descent, and in the case of Trinidad and Guyana, of Indian heritage. And so we are now the gatekeepers and the choir boys for that philosophy. And yes, they are doing everything to reverse the advances that have been made. Now, in Trinidad, in the aftermath of the 1970 revolution, the government was forced to make certain moves economically, nationalize banks, nationalize the oil industry, and several sectors of the economy were nationalized. What has happened in what we call the counter-attack, in the last 20 to 25 years, many of those institutions, like banks where a person of African descent couldn't get a job, is in the post-1970 period that you could see a person of African descent in the bank and person of East Indian descent in the bank. What has happened in recent years is that there have been a reversals of all of these nationalizations, right? They have sold out significant sectors of the economy. You know, for example, one of the banks that came back was the Scotia Bank, right? Royal Bank. It's a Royal Bank. It was nationalized, and now it's Royal Bank is controlled again by the Canadian multinationals. So there is this, and this is being done in collaboration with the local elites and the local bourgeoisie.
So they're calling this... Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so all of the advances that have been made economically, all of the advances that have been made socially are now being reversed, right? And the government is working hand in glove with that local elite and their foreign partners to reverse those gains.
This is the very definition, Brother Akko, of the neoliberal project, the neoliberal agenda.
Exactly. But you see, when we say the neoliberal agenda, sometimes people tend to believe that the neoliberal agenda is something new, right? The neoliberal agenda is more, to me, a more predatory form of capitalism and imperialism. It is the same philosophy sharpened, you know, what you may call more extreme.
Yes.
You know, people think that neoliberalism, Reagan and Thatcherism, but that's capitalism. And they found a different way, a more predatory and vicious way to perpetuate the system. You know, one of the things I learned, I had a meeting, I went to a conference in Canada, and for Emancipation 150, and I met one of the leaders of the Communist Party in Canada. And the point he made to me at that at a discussion we had was that capitalism is an adaptive tendency. It adapts constantly, right, to new realities. And so when we talk about neoliberalism is just an adaptation of capitalism. As the progressive forces wane or were defeated in certain parts of the world, they found a new approach to advance because of capitalism and imperialism, and that's what neoliberalism is.
Yes.
So we cannot, you know, we sometimes in the analysis, we seem to think it's some new form of capitalism. It's not. It's the same capitalism from the Industrial Revolution that employed young children in the mines, right, and in the factories, and then had caused the collapse or what is the Great Depression, and so on. This is just the modern version of it, in which predatory lending and exploitation of all types, deregulation and so on, is taking place, and they continue to push wealth up to the top 1% of the society, to the point that the bottom 50% of American society, I think, only own like about 10% of the wealth, and the top 5% own about 93%. And that's the reality. It's a new form of capitalism and imperialism.
So this is our reality within the Caribbean that you've just outlined. It is exactly our reality. We talked last week about structural violence as a result of this reality against the Caribbean people. What can you tell us about the spirit of revolution, the spirit of change, that spirit that led to the Sam Sharp Wars, the Emancipation Wars, the Chief Tetchy Wars, and I'm quite sure you can name many more throughout the Caribbean, and even the war for full freedom, for liberty in Haiti. Talk to us about that spirit, which seems to have been somehow culled, or it's now totally, well, for the most part, there's impotence. What has happened to that Caribbean spirit, do you think?
It is not impotent. You know, in the course of a struggle, there are periods when there is a lull, you know, and in every revolution. And I would quote Bob Marley here when Marley said, the only solution is a revolution. And I think we have forgotten that we have always been in a revolutionary struggle. Things like independence and Republican status as we have in Trinidad and Guyana, these have been distractions to divert our attention away from the revolutionary process that must take place.
Yes.
You know, I talk to young people in the Caribbean, so in different parts, and particularly in Trinidad, and when I was there for the last 7 or 8 months. And one of the things a lot of them, even my own family, some of my nieces and nephews would tell me, you know, Uncle, this voting thing is a waste of time. I voted and it doesn't change anything. And these are people in their 18, 19, 20 years. So that is some kind of consciousnness that is emerging as to the contradictions of the current political system. The system has always been able to mask its contradictions and give you the impression that if you vote once every 5 years, then you are participating in a democracy. And it's interesting that discussion is taking place. I remember reading a book by a Soviet writer commenting on the French Revolution. And he said in one of the chapters that when the people stormed the Bastille, they stormed the Bastille for the right to participate in government. What they got instead was the right to vote. So we have to understand that the right to vote is not the same as the right to participate. What has been sold to us as democratic processes is the fundamental issue of the right to vote. The new process that we have to develop, which Jack spoke about in its booklet called Conventional Politics or Revolution in the 1972 document that we wrote. The new process has to be one where the people can participate more in the process. And our leaders are not inclined to have that happen because that will make them irrelevant.
Hold the line. Hold the line. I'm going to come back and pick up right there. So what is this new process that you refer to? Let me take a break. Let us think about what he's saying. Let us listen carefully and think, because we all can relate to what we're hearing here. So this new process that you talk about, Brother Ako, where the people can participate, what is this process?
It has to be a revolutionary process, Sister Kabu. When we campaigned the elections in 81, we wanted to develop a manifesto. But we didn't want a group of people to sit down in a room and write the manifesto. So what we did, we had a series of over 600 public meetings throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And we had members, senior members, some with training. And we opened the microphone so that the public could speak to us about what they wanted to see in our manifesto as we approach the issue of governance should we get into power. And we learned so much from the masses. In fact, some people criticize us, and we noted those things. But we noted the ideas from the people. And we produced a document, which I think is still in existence, called the Blue Book, which was a philosophical approach to our politics, right? So the new approach has to be one where leadership can come up with creative approaches to involve the people. I give you that one example we did in terms of creating the public meetings in which we think. And then we created a system called the People's Governance Council. In fact, Lloyd Best, in his look at how we should reform the society, spoke about what he called a big macro government. A macro is a term we use in Trinidad that is large. And he said we should have a macro Senate in which broad sectors of the population could participate in policy and discussion as to how the society should be. Now, some of us who are more radical, we think the entire Westminster system should be scrapped. And we should create something different. I remember Sister Baina Bello who you introduced me to, in one of the discussions we had with her, she defined to people what the cacique was. She said many people believe the cacique was a king. She said the cacique was not a king, was a council. It was a body of people, of men and women, actually. And the cacique would then select an individual to speak to the whoever the European invader was. So we have to look to our own Caribbean civilization, our own African civilization, our indigenous civilization, and find what models that exist, how we can pair those models with modern systems or modern theories and create something syncretic that is rooted in our Caribbean reality. Right now, we have no institution that is rooted in our Caribbean reality. All these institutions, could you imagine this honorable man calling each other honorable this and honorable that? These scoundrels, honorable this and honorable that. So Westminster as a system, as a model, has to be dismantled, in my opinion. That is the revolutionary change.
Yes.
Right?
It appeals to me, and I'm quite sure to a lot who are listening. What are the challenges to that? Because you also said this is not something that the so-called leaders themselves would buy into immediately, that the system would resist this.
The challenge is public education. We, at every given point in the uprising that happened in the Caribbean, whether it's in the 30s, the 60s or the 70s, all of it had to do with public education. The Rodney Rebellion in Jamaica happened because Rodney went into the hills and went into the streets and was educating the masses. You understand? In Trinidad in 1970, it was the same thing. People look at the advances of China and in terms of its economic development and the survival of the Cuban Revolution. And you look at those two revolutions, and the first thing they did was mass literacy campaigns, mass education campaigns to educate the masses. And this is something I said in a radio interview last week. In terms of, we're studying political power in terms of a political science lecture. And we're looking at three systems of the acquisition of power. One was, and this was in revolutionary terms, one was the protracted war as it existed in China and Cuba, where they went to the hills and mountains, right? That's one, the protracted war, right? One was the coup, the military coup that's happened in Grenada, where a coup took place, or that's happening in the Sahel, and you acquire power. And then the third one was that, and Iran was the best model example of it, where there was a mass uprising where the people took to the streets and the whole state collapsed. So there were three systems, three methodologies of the acquisition of power. The problem is, when you get power, what do you do with it? That is when the revolution begins. The point is, it is easy to acquire power. It is what you do with that power that counts. And in terms of these revolutionary political parties, like in the states of Cuba and China, they literacy campaigns, mobilize and organize and educate the people to prepare them for this revolution, to defend the revolution. And so in the Caribbean, we have to begin, in what ways? I know you do this on your station all the time, but we have to intensify this process of political education, of cultural education. People have to understand what capitalism is, right? They have to understand different economic models. What is a socialist economic model? What is a capitalist? I was talking to a political, a political aspirant a few years ago who wanted to form a political party. And I was telling the person who's an attorney, they asked me to join them. I said, well, look, you can't just get into politics without having a philosophy. And you must define what that philosophy is. So the person said to me, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you have an ideology. I said, choose an ideology, socialism or something. I said, even Fabian socialism. And that person asked me what Fabian socialism was. And this is a lawyer who has been a politician and was in the Senate at one point in time. Mm-hmm. And this speaks to the ignorance of our elites.
Yeah.
Right?
So that deprogramming of the mind that you talk about, that re-education, Brother Ako Mutota is on the phone lines. Brother Ako, is CARICOM, should we scrap CARICOM at this stage? Is it working for the people, for us, for the Caribbean?
Well, it's not working, but let me just broaden that discussion. What is the most important institution we have in the Caribbean? It's the West Indies cricket team, right? Mm-hmm. It is the thing that has brought us the most amount of joy as a Caribbean institution, the most amount of fame, right? Significant financial resources. So here we have this model, right? We ruled the cricket world for 15 years at the top of the game. Little islands, smaller than the cities in metropolitan societies. We beat the societies with 500 million people, 40 million. Yet this institution that we should preserve as our greatest legacy, what is happening with it now? It is being destroyed, right? Right? Now, the question you asked about is CARICOM serving us. And I open by saying that these people are choir boys for imperialism and neocolonialism, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, we talk about CARICOM yet and the Caribbean single market economy. Yet there is no freedom of real movement in the Caribbean. So Jamaican goes to Barbados, he's viewed suspiciously.
True.
Right? Same thing in Trinidad. Well, they abuse Haitians all across the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. Right? Yet we are talking about CARICOM. Right? So CARICOM was never about serving the interests of the masses. And I will show you when CARICOM wants to serve its masses, how it does. There was something called the sunset legislation. Right? And I don't know if you're familiar with it. It was implemented during the World Cup. And it facilitated easy movement throughout the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. In other words, yes. they accommodated, right, the foreign entities that control the World Cup, ICC and the ECB and so on.
I remember that, yes.
Exactly. So when you want to serve the interests of capital and the interests of neocolonialism, you can immediately implement policies that serve them. Mm-hmm. However, when it comes to serving the interests of the masses, it cannot be done. So CARICOM has always been a fast, right? And the same thing in the Caribbean single market economy. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. And all of these institutions, all of them, must change. They do not serve the interests of the people of the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm. Let us look at Africa then, the Caribbean and Africa. We see the Afro-Exim Bank, for example, which is now in Barbados. Barbados has done quite a few things in terms of making travel between or negotiating with other African countries where travel is easy. The problem in Jamaica is that we don't even know the route to get to some African countries. And it's not even a praise for Barbados. It is saying, how important is it for the Caribbean and Africa to have that ease of travel you talk about, but also that relationship that cuts out the middleman, whether it is through the bauxite, because, you know, how it is. We take the soil from here, we send it to Ghana, and then Ghana ship it to the U.S. So cut out the U.S. and either way. Anyway, cut out the middleman. So the point I'm making is, how do we begin to do this? Is this the role of CARICOM, of leaders, or is this on us? As we're saying, we are on our own.
We're on our own. I mean, it should be the role of the leaders, but we are on our own, and we have to, you know, act in our best interest. Now, this, despite the attempts by the ruling elites of the Caribbean to divide the Caribbean people, which is what Gabi also spoke about in the KSO West Indian politician. You should listen to it. Despite their efforts, there is a groundswell of people.
Brother Uncle, hang on a minute there, Brother Uncle. Because the beach is mine, and he was going to be played this morning, you know, because I looked for Jack the Beach is mine and queued it up and didn't play it, and then you came in and said West Indian politician, so I know Gabby's in the place. He had to be played this morning. So you're saying that we are on our own, Brother Ako, because the West Indian Caribbean politicians are Westminster choir boys.
Yeah, they're not going to help. And the point I was making before you play the Calypso is that while this has been, while they have been making every effort to divide the population, at the ground level, and this is what CLR James always talks about, we must build from the ground up, right? The Caribbean people have moved around the Caribbean. You know, almost half of the descendants of African, you know, about that, you know, close to that. Half of the African descendants in Trinidad has Grenadian connections. Mm-hmm. You understand? Mm-hmm. You have a significant populations of Trinidadians in Guyana and vice versa, of Ghanaians. And so when you start to talk, you see all these connections over the years. I do an annual observance of our 1937 anti-colonial rebellion. And two of the people who were there were descendants of one of the people who one died and one was involved in the movement. Mm-hmm. And they were speaking, and they realized that their grandfathers, one came from Barbados and one came from someplace, dropped off Trinidad and swam to the shore. I think one was from Barbados, one was from Grenada, right? So this movement of the people has been occurring naturally. I even think this British footballer John Barnes, I think his father was from Trinidad. You know? So this movement has been occurring and naturally by the people. There is no enmity between the people of the Caribbean. Just what Gabby said, these politicians just divide us. In fact, a lot of people don't know this. Herbert Blaise, who was the Prime Minister of Grenada at one point in time, won, I think it's a referendum, and you could research it, on the basis that Grenada and Trinidad were to form a unitary state because of the close familial connection. You know, and he won an election campaigning on that. So the basis of this unity of the people is there. And we just have to work towards realizing that unity of the Caribbean.
At the risk of breaking the work toward that unity, we will not allow you to steal John Barnes. Because if you do that, you know, we're going to take Brian Lara. And I mean, I don't know if it, you know.
Well, when you have Atu Bolan, mothers of Jamaica.
Yes. You know, Brother Ako.
His mother always reminds me he could have run for Trinidad or Jamaica, but he chose Trinidad.
But Brother Ako, you know, we're out of time, but I want to bring it all together, and I think we bring it all together back with where we started with IT, because IT, I think, is our conscience, that until we are able to understand our connection as a people to IT and why IT is important back to us as one people, then I think it's almost there is a question as to whether or not we'll understand the wider Caribbean connection that we and unity that we're talking about here this morning in reshaping the Caribbean for the future of the Caribbean for our children.
Yeah, Sister Kabu, I've said this on more than one occasion. There are two countries in the Caribbean that, when we think about transformation, we have to model. We have to study, not model, study. Because the models may not always apply to every particular territory. But we have to study. The one is Haiti for its undying and unyielding demand for freedom, to the point that it rejected Western ideas about God, about society and everything else. And this is why they are so insistent on the destruction of voodoo. Because voodoo represents a total and absolute rejection of European thinking about the divine and the divinity. You cannot move in creating any new society, new civilization without a spiritual foundation. Mm-hmm. And so Haiti teaches us that. Yeah. The second country as a model, as a study, I should say, is Cuba, for its ability to defend itself from internal and external enemies. And between those two, we have to study how we can move forward. Mm-hmm. Because we have internal enemies in our countries that will sell us back into slavery if we are not careful. And one of the key components of our enslavement is the enslavement of the mind through this religious indoctrination that we have been schooled in. As Jomo Kenyatta said, when the European came to Africa, he had the book and we had the land. He taught us to pray with our eyes closed, and when we open our eyes, he had the land and we had the book, and we are still in that state. We must develop and study our struggles and learn from them as we seek to develop a new Caribbean society and new Caribbean civilization.
Brother Ako Muchota, as usual, a pleasure. Thank you so much for this enlightening and illuminating discussion. We'll talk to you again very shortly. I think next month we'll have you back on. I hope you're available. Thank you so much, my brother. By the way, I know you're going to be on the Black Educators' Voices on February 22. So our listeners can check you out on that Zoom link. We'll give them the information later on. But that's February 22, right, Brother Ako?
Yeah. And also on February 2nd, we have a solidarity with Haiti on Zoom titled Militarism in the Caribbean.
All right. Brilliant. We'll
I will send you that information.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you again. Okay.
Bella, Tony Rebel. Rebel Salute is up. Tony Rebel, let me know if he's on. Hey, Bella, my brother, how you doing?
I go on Kabu. Me there, man. Me there.
May I tell you?
I sit tight.
Rebel Salute.
Yeah, man, Rebel Salute time again.
Yeah, man, the magnetic Tony Rebel. That's something here, you know. The magnetic Tony Rebel. You know, you're not a promo. The magnetic Tony Rebel. We love it. We love it.
The magnificent Tony Rebel.
So, Mr. Rebel, how you doing, sir?
Well, me having a good relationship with life, and me not have no intention of divorcing her, not anytime soon.
I love that. Once again, last time I saw you, we used to see each other more often, but here we are. Once every year. It's good for us. So, last time I saw you, it was when Rebel Salute wrap up last year. And now we're back again for another year.
That's the time I saw you for real, but I see you on my Instagram and and hear you all the time.
You might give me a like, you know. We do it for the love. We do it for the love, not for the likes. But give me a like, man.
Yeah, man. You got a whole heap of love, man. You need a like.
Yeah,
man.
True. Rebel, you know, we're looking forward to Rebel Salute this year. We like the lineup. Rebel, let me just ask you off the top. Did I see Dawn Penn on Rebel Salute this year?
Yes, man. We have Dawn Penn.
Goodness.
That magnificent singer from outer England, and we are importing her and Maxi Priest to Rebel Salute this year.
Goodness, you know this tells me that this is Rebel Salute has never really lost anything, and so I'm about to say going back to your roots, but this is kind of rootical Rebel Salute. The lineup sound to me very rootical Rebel Salute.
Yeah, man. Well. From beginning, we try to control the roots and put it out to the people. We put a lot of thought into our lineup, and therefore that's how it comes out most of the time. You know what I mean? Sometimes it might have a variety, but yeah. That's how it is.
And I know when we spoke last year, you know, the children were. Listen. I've been how many years now we're talking about Rebel Salute?
at 31 years, this year. I'm going to be 31 years.
1 years, I'm telling you.
A long time,
The preservation of reggae.
You know from the beginning. You know from the beginning.
From before, listen, from the beginning of the beginning.
From the beginning of the beginning, you were there in a Kabu.
Yeah, and I'm proud to say that, Rebel, because I've watched just how you maintain the mandate, which is the preservation of reggae. And sometimes I remember, in the days when you were, you had the challenge of maintaining the preservation of reggae, but dancehall was eclipsing reggae for a moment, as it is now, because this happened before. And you had to make a choice as to how do you blend that, the best from that, to preserve reggae. How difficult or challenging was that? You change people's name on here?
Well, because I'm an artist, so I have a good idea of the business. Mm-hmm. I know what is in vogue a lot of times, and I try to make it be inclusive. I try to bring the best of dancehall in reggae. Yeah. And a lot of times, they are reggae artists, they are reggae artists first.
Yes,
but
true.
They just differ because of maybe what is popularity. But anytime you call on them, man, to show you a good variety of who they are, they will show you the other side too.
And this is what I must commend you on, because you led a process of shifting a paradigm. Because even they themselves, when we interviewed people over the years that from the dancehall that you brought onto Rebel Salute, because you saw that other side of them, they themselves understood the assignment and made that effort to redefine themselves. Have you noticed this?
Of course, I've noticed that when Bounty come, Bounty is straight, Rodney Bright, and him don't do any of the and Beanie don't do any of the Beanie Man song too.
I know Mr. Davis very well, Moses.
I noticed one was David Brooks. When he came to Rebel Salute, he didn't even want any strong drink. He said that the Rastaman them things so water. I love that, because even though some artists come to Rebel Salute, them come with things in them cup.
Yes.
When you ask them what is in their cup,
what's in your cup?
My cup stays in my cup.
What's in my cup stays in. And so over the years we've seen that though. That was, to me, congratulations. No, man, that was a brilliant move. It was a stroke of genius, may I just say that. And you continue that. Whose name are you changing this year?
Raheem Bowles.
Who's that?
Valiant. Yeah, Raheem Bowles is our pick from that segment, and yeah, him say a long time more up on Rebel Salute long before it is bust. So it's like they find Rebel Salute to be this space that they always want to come and perform, because they have the other side to them, and they want to showcase it so that people can see that they are not just a one-track artist. They are an overall consummate artist.
Yes, and I remember Muta having a conversation. Was it last with who?
With Joshie.
With Joshie, yes, man. With Muta, and to me, that it also represents on stage a continuation. It is an acknowledgement.
A continuation, a conversion, because simple as you see, Muta hug up Joshie and tell him that when him leaving, he must carry him hard with him.
Yes.
And give it to him friends them. And he looked at that because that went viral, and people, sometimes they are converted through that.
That is true, and this is a point I want to underscore, that because this is missing from the music anyway, the stage of Rebel Salute, because Biggie and me have this conversation all the while, about how, and I remember having Ernest Smith in studio, having this conversation about the continuity. And he was saying this is the first time that there is a break in the continuity. But what I find is that Rebel Salute manages that continuity very well, even if you have to use them birth certificate names.
Definitely. We started Rebel Salute on 4 pillars: education, community, music, and something else. And we want to continue with those 4 pillars. We want the music to be entertaining, continually. So we always remember our objectives. Our objective is to educate the people, inspire them, motivate them. All the time we want to do that. So regardless of how it might look or how difficult it gets, we try our best to hold our mandate.
I must congratulate you on that. Congratulations on 31 years. So the lineup this year...
Hey, because, it's enough time, I want to stop.
I know. And the last time we talked, you tell me that, and you've been saying this for years, though, that the children are coming, and at some point, your plan is to ease them in, is to pass the baton on to the children. And I think that you've done that now to a large extent, haven't you?
Yes, man, because the continuation has to be there. If you want a legacy or you want something to continue, you have to do that. You can't just hug it up, all of the popularity and everything for yourself. You have to share it and spread it. So Jayud and the others and Ryan and the team, they are up front in doing everything, most of the things. And I have a chance now to sit back and watch them, oversee it. I used to micromanage, but I don't have to do that no more.
I know so you find it hard for the micromanaging, but you recognize now that they're willing and able.
They're capable. They're
capable. I remember Jayuda. Jayuda was a baby at the first one, wasn't she? Because Jayuda was like a baby. Yeah, man. Yeah, we don't take turns a whole.
She was 10.
That's right. 10. Come on. Yes. So this is really something to celebrate. And
but we are trying to do it like the Chinaman, them man.
That's what you said.
Chinaman bring them youth in the thing and make them thing continue forever. When them dead, them still are going, So we as black people can do something like that to set up the generational thing and make it go on.
I must remind you that you said that to me possibly 25 years ago, and you have said it many times in between, and so it tells me that this is not a fluke, this is a strategy, this is a plan.
Yes.
Congratulations. Listen, let me ask you something now. What's the lineup? Because we know we hear the former one, but you talk us through it, because we know you're going to be on. We know that we just mentioned Don Penn, who we're looking forward to seeing. I'm telling you, seriously. What's the lineup like?
So Maxi Priest, Richard Spice, Louis Culture, Luciana, Queen Africa, myself, Echo Minot, Raheem Bones, Valiant.
That will be Valiant, people.
I will eat more, but don't have the
make it time, because the promo running hard. The promo running hard. Anyway, we're looking forward to this. We'll see you on Saturday. It is Saturday at
Saturday, January 18th,
right,
at Plantation Cove. So early, because it's one day we're going to have this year.
Yes.
Right, we're taking one day to Florida at 4:20.
Okay.
So we're doing it a little earlier. We're going to start at 3, and all kids who is under 12 can come. Pepsi plan to do some giveaways and some enjoyment for the kids. We're going to have celebrity cook-off for the first time. Some celebrity going to cook off and show off them cooking skill. And we're going to have
Who cooking this year? Who cooking this year?
Say Craig from Vice Naylor Cook and some other people.
You know, I remember when you did the celebrity
talk and them people there who
you remember when you did
really know them, but my dad
Jayuda. We asked Jayuda.
Get them.
Yeah. So listen, because I remember your first celebrity cook-off when you carried what the actor name again?
Malik Yoba.
Yeah, man, Malik Yoba, man. Yeah, for that big celebrity cook-off there. You remember that?
Malik the cook.
Yeah. That was quite something. So, you know, listen. Rebel, we'll be there. We'll see you on Saturday. You know, Rebel Salute is always one of the best places to be. I heard
in
from
January.
In January.
You know, every time I go in the street, I box some people and I say, "Yeah, I heard about that show, and I must come this year." I want to invite all the people who never come to Rebel Salute yet to just don't make people from Australia, New Zealand, and over Africa and all over Europe come and tell them about something that is happening in their backyard. I want them to come and witness it. Witness it if it is even once in your lifetime. Don't dead and never see a Rebel Salute. No
Rebel. Not too much, man. You can't tell people if you don't dead and don't see a Rebel Salute. But point taken.
We're telling them to live.
Yes,
telling them to live.
Live for Rebel Salute. Yeah, man. Live for Rebel Salute. Lalibela. Ticket prices?
Huh?
Ticket prices, yeah, man?
You know what I mean? I know.
Listen,
honest.
I don't think we will have enough because, as me saying, pass it on to the children. But listen, the promos are running hard, the ads are running hard, and you'll hear them here at IRFM. And then as soon as we get those prices, we'll let you know. But suffice to say, it's on Saturday, and we'll see you at Rebel Salute.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You're from Tree.
The magnificent Tony Rebel.
I Kabu.
Lalibela.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to brother. We talk soon.
Yeah, love.
All right, Tony Rebel there with Rebel Salute. Listen, Michelle, Rebel gone? Goodness gracious. Rebel, you gone? I'm gone, you know, because the big A coming here, you know, me don't want, listen. Rebel, I know you're still listening. So, remember what happened last year? I'm just saying. I'm not saying anything else. All I'm saying is that Mr. Big A is here. And you must remember what happened last year. How are you doing, Mr. Big A?
I'm good.
Okay.
Your memory is better than mine, you know.
Eh?
Your memory is certainly better than mine.
Really, Big A, don't even try it. Don't even try it.
I have selected memory.
What you're selecting now?
Eh?
What you're selecting now?
No, I select not to remember.
Well, Rebel, what I'm select not to remember, I'm select to remember. You know, I know you remember. So here's the thing now. Mr. Big A just walk in, and you don't know how the thing go. So, anyways, you know, plainly speak. This requires some plain speaking, and for the sake of Africa, let us speak plainly. That is Africa. That's Kwame Nkrumah. Mm-hmm. So, Rebel Salute is on, and as in the case of other people, and me and Big A, you know, I know I'm good. Cause I'm not afraid for ask for ticket, but Big A's tickets. How much in your entourage?
I'm limited to 4.
4 in his entourage, and that is really a small entourage because you move like popcorn, don't you? Like 100 with a popcorn movement. The only man moving more less than you is popcorn, don't it? No? Yes? All right. We leave it then. Is that your microphone? Big A, grab the microphone coming up. Something we're talking about. You're not grabbing the mic? Okay, there you go. So, is that a microphone?
You always seem to want to provoke me every time.
No, I say this is no provocation. I see books in books and rivers in running stones. This is no.
You come to provoke me every time.
So here's the thing now. So Big A, good for Rebel Salute. Come and knows the Lalibela. Listen, Lalibela, it have to be, you know I go. I mean, package everything differently because, so just so I said, you see how me talk about everything plainly?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, you know, I spoke to Muta this morning. But before I go to Muta, I want to talk to you about Rebel Salute. So you're definitely going, right? I know you're working that night. Goodness, what time you come off?
10 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, man. That time, you know.
I can't say I'm
you
good.
can catch Dawn Penn.
I can't say I'm good because I have not been accredited.
Lalibela, if you go call me back, you know. You can't get back Lalibela on the line. So get back Lalibela on the line for me because... because Big A is saying that he's not accredited.
No, I'm not accredited.
Lalibela.
And I'm not going to go there and use my face recognition, my biometrics.
And Big A says he's not going to use AI face recognition.
No, I'm not going to use it.
So biometrics not working with him. So he has to be accredited. Talking about accreditation, but before we move on to accreditation, Dawn Penn, I really am looking forward to seeing her again. A long time, don't it?
It's a long time. And Dawn Penn has several sub-hits apart from No. You know, she's had one or two other songs that certainly not of the ilk of No.
Yeah.
But she has other songs that I'm sure the patrons will enjoy.
I remember we used to interview her all the time, you know. Here she was. She really.
She's looking forward. She's one of the wonders of that era, where you know you have one big song and basically feed it for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Sister Nancy is
Mama Nancy.
Yeah, is one of those icons too. Yeah. That you know, you just can't get the song out of your out of the space.
That is true.
No is one of those songs. Yeah. It has made it to games.
It's in movies.
In almost every era of your life. You can.
It is Nia's favorite song.
Oh yes.
Yes, at our little age. but it is, you know, so it has that longevity. You know, in every single era, you can draw for No, and it's still
and
sound.
It is played even in the dances today.
Max Priest is also on, so that sounds good.
You know, that is one of my favorite all-time reggae artists.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man.
I know you love Maxi, but
Maxi is certainly up there with the likes of Dennis Brown and the rest of them. But you know, I haven't seen him in a while. I haven't seen him perform in a while. And, you know, his catalog is just awesome.
Yeah. One of the things that I was talking to Rebel about just now is how, something Mayor talk about all the time, is the continuity in the music. And I was saying to him, it's also something that Ernie Ranglin spoke about. But that on the Rebel stage, there is that kind of a thing from the minute he introduced many years ago, the birth certificate names, you know, that the Moses Davies, and so on. So that in a way, when we saw Jashi on stage, for example, with Muta rolling, remember that?
Yeah.
It was last year or the year before?
It was last year. Sometime very recently, though.
Right. What your own thinking on this, Big A? Because I think there is something in that, in terms of that. I don't know if there are many other stages where you see that deliberateness in holding that continuity or bring, you know.
And I tell you, it is particularly difficult to hold that continuity in this time because there's this large disconnect between the traditional reggae as we knew it and what happens today. There is not much of a disconnect, but almost a seamless flow between authentic reggae and what we call the dance hall of the 90s, for example.
Yes,
there was almost a seamless evolution. But now, as I said before, there's a serious disconnect. You can't see where the two things are connected. You can't see the connecting joint.
Even dancehall to dancehall. Even to what dancehall has progressed to.
Yeah, man. Even from dancehall to dancehall. You can't see the connecting joint, the nexus, you know. So it is particularly important that we preserve the connection to say this is ours and this is also ours as well. Even
to own it all the genres.
Yeah, man, to own it. To own it is very important that we do because history will be very unkind to us if we choose to.
If we drop it yourself.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So where are we? Because we're coming from, what, Ska? Before Ska was what again?
Mentor.
From Mentor.
Right.
To Ska.
Right, and there was also the Nyabingi element thrown in there somewhere.
Right.
Then,
Rocksteady,
reggae, dancehall, hip hop. You know, and here we are now in the modern era of dancehall.
What's it called now? Trap?
Whatever. we have moved past trap though.
Trap.
I'm hearing other different kinds of names. So
did we do Afrobeat for a minute in the blending and the melding of things, or Afrobeat managed to maintain its
Afrobeat was like outside child. I would say
a little bit more impactful than
it is related, and definitely a part of the bloodline. But whether it is accepted as a legit form of the thing is another question.
What we do with reggaeton?
Pretty much the same. Pretty much
outside child.
It is pretty much.
The call is coming from outside.
No, it is like that. However, I don't believe though that reggaeton, for example, is as outside of a child as Afrobeat, because reggaeton certainly has its birthplace right here, in between Jammies and Bobby Digital. They created.
Yes, I remember. There was even a lawsuit, wasn't there?
Yeah, man. They right, Steely and Cleavage.
Yes.
There was, you know, as I said.
So the genesis, the spirit of reggaeton.
Right, is a little.
Yeah, it's right from here. So we will it's cousin. So we bring it back home, right? So
yes.
Push come to shove. I understand the point you're making, Biggie. The need to own it all, because if we don't, looking back, history is going to be unkind to us if we drop the ball right. So, I don't get the impression that there is there's a great pushback at where it is now, and maybe we're not clued in as I should.
There is a pushback. There's a huge pushback because it doesn't resemble anything we have done before. And
so who pushing back?
And people are
the elders,
the purists.
Oh, the purists. Okay,
the purists.
Okay,
they're pushing back to say, we have no Latin part in this because this is not a part of the evolution of our thing. This is coming from a foreign source.
It's a mutation.
It is a mutation, but a mutation normally comes down a particular line, doesn't it? And they're saying that the line from which trap dancehall comes is not the reggae. Is not a mutation.
Where is it coming? Where is it coming out of physically? I know the computers are there now, but
people are saying that it is a European and American concept. Because it resembles in its technical form more of hip hop and more of the R&B grooves.
So in that case, we've been here before then. We've been here before then. When we had what we were calling crossovers.
To some extent.
Diana King.
To some extent.
Tony Rebel.
To some extent. To some extent. It still appears to be different in sound from
the crossover situation.
Yeah, man, from the crossovers.
But Biggie, can I say something to you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how violent the pushback was against crossover? It was violent, It's like if you play it and you're up on the radio and a man from a studio call you, them literally I tell you off properly,
We used
there was
a
fight.
There was, yeah, and the truth is that we collectively didn't own it because hip hop can be traced back to reggae in a very serious way. We know the
Kool Herc
story. We know
DJ
the Kool Herc story and all of that. So I believe it was largely out of ignorance that pushback came, but no, it is more accepted. I think persons now understand.
In hindsight.
Right.
Because remember, me used to work the morning shift, 9 to 2,
Right.
And members 10 to 2. And remember, say you were my mentor.
Right.
And you were giving me a lot of these to play.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
I will take responsibility.
Yes, you take responsibility. You were giving me a lot of this to play.
Right.
You were literally writing my music sheet.
Right.
Right.
Not as bad as that. But
no, it's true, man. You write me music. Big Ed, you teach me to play music on radio. Please, you and Basil Walters. Basil Walters teach me to play on a Sunday, and you teach me to play 10 to 2 weekdays.
So you're hearing this now, people.
Because I remember the day you came in the library and you said, "Listen to this. What do you think?"
Amazulu and so on, the couple of the...
No, man, Amazulu, me there. You're surprised what I'm going to tell you about. Right. Because you said, "Listen to this. What do you think?" I'm going to listen to it and you say, "This is going to be the next number one. I guarantee you. Just listen to it." That's after me listening to me. I said, "Well, me like it." And you said, "Well, it's going to be the next number one." You know what it was?
No.
Mr. Bombastic. I mean, I said, "Big, are you sure?" And you say, "Yeah, but remember we don't," and you say his name Shaggy. I said, "Shaggy?" And he came here for an interview after that. I think it was through you.
Yeah.
With a manager.
Right.
And the name was so weird, you know, Shaggy, like, how will you get used to this name Shaggy? Because, you know, Shaggy in Jamaica is our pet, right? Shaggy.
Right.
Right, so yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying that to remind you of how the thing did set in terms of how you dealt with the music. And that was, it was just before those times, and I think during those times that you were also, you recognized that crossover situation, and you thought that this is something that we needed to play, which you said to me, and you fed me with all of them. But I remember that the backlash was wicked.
Oh yeah. When even when Tony Rebel did My Way and the Art and
yes.
My Way and the combination with Queen Latifah and that kind of thing, there was backlash.
Yeah.
But we didn't care.
I interviewed Latifah too. You remember she came here?
Right.
Queen Latifah came here. We interviewed her.
We supported.
Yes.
We supported it.
We
because
did.
we understood
yes.
what you know, our mission and our purpose was at the time.
Listen, it's a whole heap of things, you know. You see the time. We need a podcast, you know, to kind of
certainly
talk about some of these issues.
Certainly.
I think Ian Forrest is agreeing. I know another people, and Andrew has been saying that to me every single week that we have these discussions. So I suppose we're going to do it one of these days. So anyway, this reminds me, you know, Biggie, of a conversation we had before, because I just played that song you see on the computer there earlier today. What does it say?
Which song? The Mighty Gabby?
There it is, you know. Because we call it reggae and play it. You know? Yeah. So you want me to play it again? So you hear what it sounds like?
I could.
You can listen to it when we're gone.
I will listen to it.
And remember that we contextualize it.
Mm-mm.
And by contextualizing, we reggarized it.
Okay. Okay.
If not arguing with me on Muta, listen, me not want Muta say nothing to me now, because me know Muta go text now and tell me say it's not reggae.
What did he say in response to my
Him said not go sir. He said not go sir. This is how we say good on Muta. You know, so you know that there's a deep fake out there on Muta. So we talked about it this morning, and you know, so we had a good conversation. I think another time we have a conversation, Biggie, about AI and where it's going. Me and you need to talk about that. This is how we say